They finance presidential and senatorial and congressional campaigns. You know, when Jamie Dimon went before the Senate Banking Committee to explain what appears to be an act of multiple fraud in this London whale incident, they called it, this trading incident, all but two of the members of that committee had received contributions from J.P. Morgan Chase. And surprise, surprise, they weren't that rough on him, most of them. So I think that's a big piece of it. I think we also have now an extraordinarily cynical political system that's absolutely, you know, I hate to sound like the knee-jerk leftist, but I mean, come on, let's look at the situation. We have, you know, the liberal president who's better, far better than his opponent. I mean, I voted for him knowing all this, but he's the guy who appoints the best-known defense attorney for Wall Street to be attorney general after the biggest financial fraud created collapse in modern history, you know, or in all American history. I mean, we know what's going on there. You know, the fix is definitely in when it comes to Wall Street. So nobody's had to pay. 1,000 people went to jail in the much, much smaller savings and loan scandal. There's many more crimes, varieties of crimes were committed in this one. So, look, it's a corrupt and broken system for the reasons that Dave's listed and I've listed and others we haven't gotten to, and we've got to work our hearts out trying to change it.
Well, and the same thing is reflected in the story that came out about the TARP bailout, because there was a government watchdog group, Special Inspector General for the Troubled Asset Relief Program, said 137 different community banks took $2.1 billion from a special fund. That fund was supposed to boost lending to small businesses, and the banks instead repaid their bailouts from the financial crises. And again, we come up against this conflict where the Treasury Department said, oh, no, actually, that's fine. It said, this is from the Treasury Department, banks receiving TARP funds, they tapped into special lending funds, significantly increased their small business lending. Those banks shouldn't be compared only with banks that didn't receive bailouts and use the funds. Again, it's the same thing. It's like you set up a program, you set up a law, somebody breaks the program rules or breaks the law, and the government comes in and says, big deal. Am I over?
Of course. No, you're not overstating the case at all. I mean, I think, you know, we've got a situation where regulators aren't doing their jobs. And, that MSN article you quoted, I disagree that regulators have thrown up their hands in despair. They've stretched out their hands with resumes in them. Uh-huh. And that's a huge part of the problem. Mary Shapiro, the OCC, the FDIC, you name it. You know, there are two or three forms of corruption. There's campaign corruption. There's a corruption that's the temptation of, you know, when President Bill Clinton becomes ex-President Bill Clinton and is getting all this hedge fund money, which I think every president from now on will be looking at as his post-presidential model.
And you know what, Richard, I hate to interrupt you, but we just got caught by the clock, so I have to cut you off, for which I deeply apologize. We'd love to have you again, Richard Esco. Thank you so much.
Okay. Right.
And Dave Johnson, I always give you grief, but I adore you, and I'm so glad to have you on again. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on In Deep, a production of Mix TV. Executive producer is Gordon Whiting. Engineer Matt Fiddler. Our producers are Forrest Phillips and Kristen Stevens. Studio manager is Jill Fiddler. Yana Barklis is the acquisitions producer for Mix TV. You can follow us on Twitter at In Deep Radio. Our theme is by Big Troubles, closing theme by David Gans. Visit our website for extras from Gotta Laugh and more, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening in. I'm Angie Coiro.
But it's gonna get worse before it gets better. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. But I know it's gonna get better. Yes, I know it's gonna get better, 'cause it almost always does.
You're listening to We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM. Visit us online at weactradio.com.
this is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've got, and based on the sale price of the car you choose, I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POHANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to TimPohankaForThePeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people.
Hi, Grandpa. I'm calling from my new phone that I got for Christmas. It's an iPhone. I love you, and you're the first person I called. I love you. Bye.
Solid as a rock.
He's cared for the famine victims in Somalia. Bought back 3,000 guns to confront violence in D.C.
Something about what God is using him to do with us.
Registered numerous people to vote. It's evident that he cares. What do you care about? Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. It's the Rock Newman Show.
Good morning. It is the Rock Newman Show, Saturday, April the 13th, 2013, and I am just thrilled to sound like a broken record Saturday after Saturday after Saturday. The heavens are blessing us with the greatest, most spectacular weather here in the Washington, D.C. area. I want to welcome everyone to the Rock Newman Show here at React Radio. Those of you who are listening on the radio, it is your dial, 1480 AM. Those that might want to get in the car and listen. If you're at home in the comfort of your cozy abode, feel free to turn us on the computer. Get us at www.rocknewmanshow.com. We'd love to talk to you. Let me give out the number that you can join our conversation. It is 202-889-9797. Now, we have 3 just wonderful, wonderful hours of radio this morning and live streaming around the world. In the first hour, we have a segment that we have titled Just Us Girls, and I am one of the girls. I'm going to give you the name of all of our participants, and I will be giving you my girly girl name, and you can join in. You can join us girls here. Call us at 202-889-9797. In the second hour, it gets a bit more serious, but I think incredibly important. We're going to talk, the segment is all about mental health. We're going to have Mrs. DC America, Megan B. Barnes, who was just crowned Mrs. DC America and who is going to be competing in Mrs. America USA. We're going to have her, and her platform is about mental health, removing the stigmas, the secrecy, the embarrassment of mental health, and treating it as just we would treat anything else. And really, you know, so many people suffer from the maladies of mental health and are embarrassed to talk about it. And we want to try to have an impact on that. So in that second hour, Miss DC America, Reverend Willie Wilson, we're going to have a clinical psychologist. We're going to have a Steve Barron, who is with the D.C. government overseeing their mental health initiatives, and Raquel Ray Thomas, who oversees the D.C. Miss America pageant, and Dr. Gary Bernard, the clinical psychologist that I referenced. And in the 11 o'clock hour, we are going to discuss 42, the movie that was just released yesterday about the career and times and legacy and impact of Jackie Robinson. Joining us will be former Washington Senator baseball player Fred Valentine, who has some very, very interesting remembrances of Jackie Robinson. Fred was quite a great player himself, quite a great athlete, still is in this area. And we're going to be joined by lawyer and author Chris Meade. Chris Meade wrote a book called Black Champion in White America, the Joe Louis story. And Chris has quite an interesting take on Joe Louis's impact and actually what Joe Louis did that ultimately gave Jackie Robinson and others an opportunity to integrate the major league sports. So that's, and we're waiting. We think we're going to have Ralph Branca. Ralph Branca played with Jackie Robinson. He was the pitcher that lined up beside Jackie Robinson on the opening day of 1947, who was portrayed in the movie. There's quite a couple of really comical scenes. And if you haven't seen the movie, I certainly will encourage you to go see it. It is a very heartwarming story. But we're in the 9 o'clock hour now, and it's just us girls. And let me give the names of us girls. I have to my left, and I guess it's to your right as you're looking in from around the world as we live stream. Simi Abol. Simi Abol is a law school student, and right now working with the D.C. government. And to my immediate left is lawyer extraordinaire Mia Thrash Esquire. I like to say that, Mia Thrash Esquire.
I like to hear it.
And to my right is Micheline Bowman. Micheline Bowman is an executive with WTTG Fox 5 News and has been so for many years and has carved out quite a reputation in the D.C. metropolitan area for herself. For her work at Fox News and beyond. She is a highly sought-after keynote speaker, and I happened to be at a high school graduation when Micheline Bowman gave the keynote address, and she lit them up in there. So I want to welcome you all to the show. And on the phone from Beverly Hills, California, a University of Maryland graduate, a young lady who grew up in Bowie, Maryland, and I remember when Miss June used to babysit for her way back in the day. And now she has broken some ground in Hollywood. You may have seen her on some of the ESPN motorsports shows, Miss Amanda Amann, and she hosted segments with ESPN. And now has her own production company and is doing great and wonderful things. Amanda Amann from Beverly Hills, welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so since this show is called All About Us Girls, we posted this on Facebook and people had the question, well, what are we going to talk about? What might we talk about? And so us girl, and let me introduce myself, please. My name is Raquel. And us girls are going to talk this morning about what us girls usually talk about. So when that question came, what are you going to talk about? I said, we're going to talk about what girls talk about. And what do girls talk about most? Now, at the risk of sounding like a female sexist, what do girls talk about most? Don't girls talk about men most?
We talk about men.
Don't you talk about men? And we could start anywhere, but I want to ask each of you around the table here, and Amanda, 3,000 miles away in Beverly Hills. I kind of want to start on this note and hopefully things get better. How many times have you all said, or have you heard someone close to you say, all men are dogs? Who wants to take that first?
It's kind of like, hello, good morning. It's almost a salutation prior to any conversation with your girlfriend.
Okay, so, what I want to ask each of you, when that question is asked, what do girls talk about? You and your girls are together, and if there's one single most thing you talk about, Simi, what is it?
Relationships.
Mia?
It's a relationship.
Mikey?
Ourselves.
Amanda?
Relationships and lack thereof.
Relationships and lack thereof. And here in 2013, let me just say this. I went to Lorton Prison with 3 female friends of mine. Several years ago, I actually spoke at a graduation exercise there. And it was an overwhelmingly minority population in prison, as it is, many places. And the 3 females that I went with were single ladies, and they came out with a great sense of depression. And I was like trying to engage in conversation as we were coming back up the highway, and they were all kind of solemn, and they said that this is maybe why we don't have a man.
All the good ones are in prison. I visit prisons to see my clients on a regular basis. They're in there, and surprisingly, they're actually dressed nicer in their uniforms than you often see them in the street. They're speaking better. They've got themselves together, and you look around the visiting room, and you're like, this is exactly where all the good men are.
And I disagree. I don't.
And maybe they're not good, but
okay.
I disagree, because if you're in jail, you didn't do something good.
Right.
That's why you're there. When I said that we talk about ourselves, I'm a single mother of 2 only children. My son's 25, my daughter's 12. So I have to treat them differently because, you have a grown up and I have a young lady. And I'm happy with myself. And I always tell people, yes, I'm around married people, I'm around single people. But if you're not happy with yourself, you're not going to attract a happy man to make you even happier.
Okay.
And you shouldn't look for a man to make you happy. If you're not 100%, you're not going to be 100%.
Okay, let me just point this out. I was with another group of women in the Atlanta area, and when I say group, it was 12. I was the only male, female amongst that group of 12. My name was Raquel that day also. And what they talked about was 10 of them did not have a relationship. 10 of them didn't have anything remotely close to a relationship. One of them had a relationship, and one of them was seeing a married man. And so there was the question about what they were going to do. I mean, it was a real lively roundtable conversation. Were they going to start sharing a man? Were they going to start these were all African American women. Were they going to start dating outside of their race? Were they going to consider lesbian, self women on women love, those kinds of things? Those were the kinds of options that they were exploring. So do you guys see, and Amanda, I'll sort of put this to you. You're out there, in La La Land. I'll ask you to address this first. Do you see sort of the absence of ability to get a good man in 2013?
I most definitely do. I think a lot of it is media-driven, unrealistic expectations, physically, emotionally, lack thereof. Men just have this, it seems to be a very unrealistic idea of what goes into a relationship, not having, basic moral foundation, whether they grow up with it or not. They have no interest in starting from that. Most men think, okay, I'll date a woman for about 6 months to a year until I really decide just to be with her. But during that 6 months to a year, that period, usually women like to ideally believe that they're the only one that's there. Of course, people date, but there seems to be a lack of commitment, of course, the fear of commitment. Some men don't really care to be fathers. They have no interest in. Some men are intimidated by your career, if you're an alpha female, if you're opinionated, if you're strong-minded, probably slightly stubborn, things of that nature. And also, I also hear often, like, I'm not ready to settle down because I need to, be making millions before I do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. I would hope that most men would want a young lady or a woman who would meet them when they're in transition and can work and progress to that. Really, it's just, I think, a defense mechanism that's delaying commitment.
I agree.
Simi,
So,
well,
it's
Simi,
difficult.
Simi, I know that you happen to be in a relationship. How long have you been in the relationship you're in?
About a year.
Prior to that, were you absent a relationship for a while, or did you kind of go from one relationship pretty quickly into the new one?
I'm pretty notorious for being in monogamous relationships for a long time, whether I should or not.
Uh-huh.
2 4-year relationships before that.
You bring up a very, 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 very loaded word. Monogamous.
Mm-hmm.
Are human beings monogamous?
As I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize that there are different strokes for different folks. Obviously, monogamy is something that is built into somebody's character. I believe that it comes with loyalty. I believe that it comes with respect. I believe that it comes with a strong relationship with your family and knowing what loyalty is, and wanting to carry your relationship out in a light that others can see and learn from it.
Mia? Monogamy?
Monogamy, I believe, is, depending on your age group, something that is not in our human makeup necessarily, naturally. Again, I agree with Cindy.
So-
It's something that you do because you love the person and you want to prove to them that you're loyal. But I think our natural human being, our physicality and our desires are just the exact opposite of monogamy. I do believe you can be loyal without being monogamous, but you have to be honest with the person that you are with.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to expand on that, because that was a nice way of saying that.
I just need you to come home at night.
Okay, need somebody to come home at night, but not necessarily that person all the time, because naturally or by nature, human beings are not monogamous. And are us girls more monogamous than men?
Well, Raquel, I think women, due to our physical makeup, just the actual physical act of sex, because we are taking you in, I think it's more intimate for us. So we are more likely to attach quickly. And because if we are being physical with you, we have a more emotional connection, I believe, because of the way that we have sex. Men are going out, we are bringing someone in, and so it becomes more emotional for us. So I think it's easier for us to be monogamous. If we're with someone and we're loving them and we're happy with them, we're not even thinking about someone else. The man of our dreams that we've seen in movies for the last 10 years that we loved and said we would always want to be with. If we are in love with our current boyfriend, he could come up to us, offer us a trip to Paris and a happy ever after, and we'll be like, I'm sorry, I have to go home. We're gonna be watching Scandal tonight at 9 o'clock.
You know what? Speaking of Beverly Hills, I spent an evening in Beverly Hills a few years ago with Bishop Noel Jones. Bishop Noel Jones is the dynamic pastor out in Los Angeles who is the brother of a singer, Grace Jones. And Mia, the description that you just gave of the fact that the sexual act is considered and looked at and felt in more of an intimate way for the woman because you are receiving. Those were the words that Bishop Noel Jones, a wise, charismatic, very dynamic preacher, he basically said the same thing. Micheline, I turn to you. That question was monogamy, and you know, I remember years ago, it was a front page story. It was either Newsweek or Time. It said the human animal, which we are human animals, monogamous
I'm not a voice of reason because I'm about date a pair, keep a spare. I'm not that one. That's just me.
Date a bear. Date
a pair, keep a spare. That's just my saying because I think that when you're in your
date a bear, keep a spare.
Yes, I mean why not? It's double standards. Granted, it is double standards for females, and we grow up to understand that there are always going to be double standards, but I kind of triple the standards because I believe that when you're in your 20s, it's about one thing. Your 30s, it's about another. I'm in my 40s, and trust.
Don't look a day over you're 25. You say you had a son 25.
Right.
Okay.
And it's totally different as you get older, what you expect and the respect that you have for yourself. You get to that point where, you know what, there might be double standards in the book, but I'm going to play by my own rules. So in my 40s, if I want something, I'm going to let you know that's what I want. And if you can't handle that, then I'm sorry. Then you have to pay. I need to keep the spare and keep it moving. Because sex is, we're all human. We all have that desire. We all want sex. It's one of those things we talk about. Men, I think, don't like a female that portrays himself as, look, this is what I want. But honestly, females, that's what we want.
And so men are intimidated not only by you're having a better job, so quote unquote, or salary, but also sort of a straightforward initiative that you're defining what you want as opposed to allowing the man to define himself what you should want.
I think so. I think that men, I can't speak for all because I'm the female, they want a woman who's strong, but they still want to be able to, put the pants on and wear the pants in a relationship. But I think that if you're honest and open with whatever man you're going to be intimate with off the break and let them know, look, this is all I want. He might not receive that well, but you're letting him know up front, this is all I want. So you're not going into it with the false sense of, oh, we're going to be married, we're going to live happily ever after. You letting them know this is what I want.
When you say all I want, I mean, in other words, you're saying the female, and with a couple of more years than maybe some of the others, but your female with your mindset might say, look, dude, I'm looking for just to get some boots knocked here and we do what we do.
And that's the thing, because men, again, they want to be in charge. You guys are all about control. Most men are.
Those guys.
Oh, those guys.
Us girls are, we're talking about those guys.
But there are some women who pretty much, they know what they want if they're ready for a relationship. Because if they're not going to be able to commit 100%. Just like the man might want to date and have this woman and come home to you. But, I mean, living in D.C., I was told, Micheline, you might as well just get it out of your head that you're going to ever have one man. He's going to always have other females. And I disagree, because you can find that one man who wants just you and who you can please and please back.
Amanda, the issue of monogamy versus polygamy, are we monogamous by nature, polygamous by nature? What's your experience? You spent much time here in the D.C. metropolitan area, and you spent certainly a whole lot of time in La La Land. I want to let you get this last word before we go to break.
Sure. I'm consistently surrounded amongst people who have basically, subscribed to polygamy. But as far as monogamy, I think that it's achievable. I know that it's achievable. I think Micheline touched on a very good point that I think that both people in a relationship should be very open about what it is that they expect, what they truly desire, and where they're willing to bend. And, with men, I think it's important for men to say, okay, I love you, I'm going to marry you, but I'm going to do X, Y, Z, not disrespect you, whatever their whole preference is to your relationship, they should give you the choice. So you can make that choice by by them being upfront. Is that necessarily for me? No. Instead of, personally, I wouldn't date more than one man at a time. It's just not my cup of tea. I grew up in a household where you have complete tunnel vision. Surprisingly, my parents are still together, been together for over 48 years. She thinks he's the hottest guy on earth to this day, except for maybe Mick Jagger. She likes him a lot. I think she would go on a date with him. But other than that, and if I can't have that, then I don't want anything else. Otherwise, it's just a business transaction to me, and I do business all day. So if you're interchangeable and if you're expendable to me, then I personally can't respect you, because then you're simply objectives or a task that I'm checking off on my things to-do list.
So that makes me think about the Luther Vandross song that I never, ever agreed with. And where he's saying, I'd rather do bad with you than be good all by myself. I kind of never understood that. What I do understand is that we need to take a break, and we need to take that break right now. We'll be back right after these very important messages. Don't go anywhere. It's only going to get hotter and hotter up in her with us girls.
We'll find out when the discussion continues after this on The Rock Newman Show.
My baby drives a handcuff.
The weekend is here, and no matter what the weather's like outside, you'll find the deals inside here in the beautiful showroom of the all-new Pohanka Hyundai in Capitol Heights during their giant Markdown Madness sale.
Smart shoppers know that every new Hyundai in Pohanka comes with Hyundai Assurance and America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. But why don't you tell them about the Markdown sale, Joe?
I'll be happy to, Kim. Folks, shop around on the web, and you'll see lease payments on a new 2013 Elantra GLS at $179 a month. Today at Pohanka Hyundai, $99 a month. That's right, a $99 payment on a brand new Elantra.
And $89 a month on a new 2013 Accent GLS Automatic. How do they do it, Joe?
It must be the volume, Kim. A brand new building, hundreds of new Hyundais, and Pohanka's low payment and easy credit programs are designed to get everybody driving. But you have to get here today. Rush to the giant Markdown Madness sale at exit 13 off the Capitol Beltway.
Pohanka Hyundai, king of the Beltway. All financing for a limited term on approved HMF credit.
My baby drives a handcuff.
Good God! I got to ask you, what we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry Soul Food. What we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food.
Giving you the real on everything from politics, sports, and common everyday life issues. This is The Rock Newman Show.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at WEAC Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, the Ark. The Ark is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The Ark is also home to the Ark Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you could want is at the Ark, so stop by and see them. The Ark, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast. For more information, visit the Ark's website, www.thearkdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The Ark, part of Southeast DC.
Real talk, real issues, real life.
I got a new sheriff in town.
We now return to The Rock Newman Show.
Welcome back to React Radio. This segment is called... Come on, Mia. Did they cut my baby off? Cut my baby off, and that's okay. Only this time. I was saying, this is WEAC Radio, 1480 AM. Tell your friends they can tune us in and watch us at www.rocknewman.com. You can call in and join today's program. This segment is called Just Us Girls. The telephone number is 202-889-9797. I have in studio with me Simi Abal, Mia Thrash, Micheline Bowman, online from Beverly Hills, California, Amanda Amann, and for this segment, I am your host, Raquel Newman. Now, before I go back to the studio guests, the phone lines are blowing up out there. Okay, and we had an issue. Okay, all right, that got dropped. So we'll come back here. Let me ask you, we talked so much in the last segment about relationships. Basically say, us girls talk about men. What is the single thing that a woman, lady wants from a man in a relationship? I'm going to go in reversed order, and Amanda, have you to go first this time. What's the single most important thing that a woman looks for in a man, from a man in a relationship? Static.
As far as myself, it's trust. I think that's the best foundation for anything.
Trust. The static in me, or just the trust.
And for example, I want to be able to trust my partner that we can share similar creeds and beliefs together. I want to trust if you bring something to the table that involves that, which can help further our relationship. I want to have trust that you're going to be monogamous. I want to have trust in you financially. I want to trust that you are the self that you present yourself as and not a public face self. I want to have trust that, obviously the minute things that you went to the store, but you didn't leave out that you stopped at Lulu's house or whatever it is. Trust is just an overall, for me, is the base to my pyramid. And then from there, we were able to develop loyalty and dedication, commitment, and expand, hopefully with offspring, etc. So I think trust is most important.
Micheline? Oh, Mikey, as I've known you for 20 years.
I'm a girl. I say communication, because without communication, you have nothing. You won't have trust if you don't talk about it. You won't have love if you don't talk about it. You won't have anything if you can't have that communication. And at the end of the day, after you've gone to work, after he's done what he's done and you've done what you've done, you should be able to come back and communicate about all the things in your life and his life and go from there. So to me, it's always about, they say we talk too much, well, daggone it, talk. I need to know.
Mia Thrash, ask how you talk about it, girl.
I'm looking for stability. I need you to have your stuff together, and then we can figure out everything else from there. That's the number one thing that I'm looking for in a relationship. I need you to be where you want to be. Not, you can still have some other goals, but I need you to have accomplished at least 1, 2, and 3 on that list already.
Simi?
I'm going to say off the bat, intelligence. I need to be able to have a conversation with you. I need you to make me laugh. I need you to be on point with what we're talking about all the time. So communication as well.
I find it a little bit interesting that I talked about the 12 ladies in Atlanta. And overwhelmingly, when that question came up about what you want from a man in a relationship, it was security. Now, each of you have mentioned a characteristic: trust, commitment, stability, and intelligence. But, none of you mentioned security, and I find that interesting.
Oh, security was implied in my stability question, and if anyone needs any further clarification, I need you to have some money, and I need you to have at least what I have or more, and I do not think that makes me a gold digger. I do not think that makes me someone who is shallow, but if I'm coming to the table with X, Y, and Z, I need you to have X, Y, and Z, and starting over at the alphabet with A, B, and C.
I was going to ask the question. So let me ask that question that I was going to ask, because I was going to ask that question.
Ask that question.
All right. So a guy that is making in 2013, $50,000 a year as a bus driver who, certainly bus drivers can be intelligent. They can be stable. They can give commitment. They can give you trust. Now, if you have a $50,000 a year bus driver versus a $500,000 a year Wall Street executive who is going to be maybe not the worst, dude in the world, but he's not going to give you as much trust. He's not going to give you as much commitment. He's not going to give you as much stability. He, he'll bring some intelligence, but he uses it in a somewhat of a manipulative way. Who you going to choose?
Can I answer that?
Who you going to choose? Simi, who you going to choose?
I work at the SEC, so I'm a little biased for the Wall Street guy. I don't think I could really trust anybody who works on Wall Street. And I don't think they're going to have the time that I need from them to commit to me. They have busy schedules. Bus driver sounds kind of nice. Definitely give them a fair shot. I don't know that we necessarily have a lot to talk about all the time, and we love to talk. So it would just depend on the person.
Get on the bus, Gus. Make a new plan, Stan. Don't need to be coy, Roy. Just listen to me. Mia.
All right. Well, just the level of lifestyle that I'm accustomed to is not going to work. He's going to feel some type of way Christmas when I'm not happy with my gift because I can go out and buy myself something that I really want that he can't afford. And my dad always taught me that there are three things a man has: time, money, and love. And the way that works is if you have his time and his money, you're not going to have his love because you got his time and his money. If you have his money and his love, he's not going to have any time because he's out making money for you. And if you have his time and his love, he's not going to have any money because you got all his time and his love. And maybe that's the situation with the bus driver because, he's working a 9 to 5 and he's coming home. You just have to figure out what you want. That's for me. You have to figure out what you want and what you need. And you have to be willing to accept that choice. If you want the $500,000 man, you have to understand he's going to be out making that money. So he's not going to be home all the time. And you might be raising your kids on your own a lot of the time, but you will be able to afford a nanny and you will take nice trips and you will have a nice house.
Micheline?
Here's my voice of reason. I've dated both. I've dated the broke, who was the great men, and I've dated the millionaires who could be, can I say assholes? I just said it right. I think money should not make you. You should make the money. And if a man is so gung-ho on making money, that's going to take away from his character. And I go after character because if you have a hustle and a grind and you're willing to work for what you want, that shows character. So I would take that bus driver knowing that, hey, the money's not going to, be my main focus because we can work on things together to gain more money together. Whereas if he has his own, to me, people who have their own want to control their own. And it's hard for you to become into that mix because they're like, look, this is mine. I'm going to give you what you need, but this is still mine. So I'm about the bus driver.
We're at 1918. We're at 1918 Martin Luther King Avenue. And I swear to God, there is a bus stop. There's a bus stop right out there. And I'm seeing women starting to line up out there. Get on the bus, Gus. Amanda, I don't think you've answered this one yet. You're out there in Beverly Hills where all the vanity plates and the Mercedes Benzes and the BMWs and the roses. $40,000 bus driver or the $500,000 Wall Street guy or producer there in Hollywood. The producer in Hollywood at $500,000 is not going to give you quite as much trust, commitment, stability as the $40,000 bus driver. $40,000 bus driver is going to love your dirty drawers.
Of course it would be the bus driver, but at the same time, I would give it I don't really have much patience for waiting for people to grow too much. Like, there has to be an innate understanding that, he wants to better himself and maybe just doesn't have the right people around him or tools or resources to do so. So I would hope that, that $50,000 that he makes on his bus route, and maybe we could build from that or, create some kind of other business opportunity for himself. But as far as the Wall Street guy, that's definitely not my cup of tea. And I feel like in general, as one of the young ladies had stated before, he's going to be busy making the money. That your relationship is not going to be much FaceTime, not on the iPhone, but physical FaceTime. And ultimately, in general, for me, I feel like if I'm able to communicate with you, we're going to have a basis of some kind of like understanding and similar grounds, be it education or books we like to read, or similarities as far as culturally or ideals in the world, and being like, I consider myself to be an alpha female, we would have to be somewhat like-minded. And I'm not, 19 or younger.
Mia, you wanted to get a word in before we went to break?
I was going to say, Amanda, you're taking the bus driver, but you want to change him. You don't want to take him on his surface. You want him to want more than that bus route. So do you really want the bus driver? Or you just want to make him into something?
No, not even. Like, I'm not, okay, I can be a fixer. Sometimes all of us are guilty of it. But at the same time, it's more so, even if I meet a $500,000, man, like, I would hope he want to be better than where he is consistently. Because you make $1 million or whatever a year, I would hope that you would still want to be better than that. We should all be achieving and consistently growing regardless.
Okay, Amanda sent me, and this is Micheline. We have the reality show, Us Girls, okay? And then Mia, you're going to be that voice of, because we want that bus driver, because he's going to take us places. We're going to get there regardless. We're going to get out.
And y'all can come lay by my pool.
And trust, I'll come swim in your pool, too. And my man might be your pool cleaner.
Okay, now, let me say that before we go to this break, I need to talk about something that's real special to me, and that's our advertisers and sponsors. And I want to talk about both of them. Folks, if any of you out there have automotive needs, our sponsor, Pohanka, the Pohanka Automotive Group, any particular dealership or kind of car that you want to go to and get is Acura. Do you want an Acura? Do you want a Honda? Do you want a Lexus? Do you want a Chevrolet? Do you want a Nissan? Do you want a Mercedes? Whatever, the Hyundai. I was over at the Hyundai dealership the other day, and just folks were in there getting Rock Newman deals and leaving out happy than any jaybird you ever saw. So I'm going to encourage each and every one of my listeners, those of you that are watching around the world, just come in here to the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area and get yourself a Pohanka car. They have a reputation that is second to none in the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area. Their service hours generally are from 7 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. You don't need any kind of an appointment. You just go in and get your stuff taken care of quick, fast, and in a hurry. They are here in the DMV area, but they'll fix your car in a New York second. And also sponsoring the Rock Newman Show is the MGM Grand National Harbor. And I keep telling you folks, this is a project sitting on the banks that will be sitting on the bank of the Potomac River in Oxon Hill, Maryland, in Prince George's County, that is going to service this metropolitan region. And as Kathy Hughes said last week, it will be a beacon light for folks to come in from all around the world. It will spur tourism for Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Anytime you hear anything about the MGM project, it is all good for the neighborhood. We want you to give it your 100% support. It is going to throw off thousands of jobs. It is going to throw off millions of dollars of revenue that can go to schools and teachers and policemen and firefighters. It's all good in the neighborhood. MGM Grand National. And if you want to get your gaming on before that building is finished, go to any MGM property in the world. You shall be satisfied. I'm Rock Newman. We'll be back in a few moments. I'm Raquel.
The Rock Newman Show will be back after this.
Pohanka Acura's huge March sales event is going on now. Get one of the new 2013 TLs for as low as $199 per month, or get the brand new 2013 MDX for only $254 a month. Come find out why price and selection have made Pohanka the world's largest.
Take Action News with David Schuster, Saturdays from 12 to 3 on We Act Radio, 1480 AM and weactradio.com.
Well, for me, it's always been, you report the facts. You report like hell, let the chips fall where they may. And the truth ultimately is what's going to sort of help our society and help all of us. I don't think progressives want a thumb on the scale on the facts. They just want the facts out there. You let the facts out, and progressives will tell you, we're going to win 70% of the time. You may quibble with the percentages or whatnot, but I think that's just sort of what progressives are looking for, and I think that's where this all sort of meshes with my interest as a journalist. And my interest as a journalist is report the facts. Here's what's going on. Here's what the facts say. Here's what history says. Here are the lessons we know we have learned. And let people draw their own conclusions. And I think what's so unfortunate right now in the world of broadcast media is I do think that a lot of conservative radio, certainly conservative television, they're not interested in facts. And that's ultimately where I think conservative media is going to have its downfalls, that Americans are hungry. They're just hungry for basic information, hungry for basic facts. You report like hell. You let the chips fall where they may. I think it's natural for all of us who care, who are passionate about politics, who feel like we have a sense about the difference between right and wrong. I think it's okay to let that be part of your coverage. It's important for all of us as broadcasters and journalists. In this day and age, we have to be authentic. You can't be the person who's up in the ivory tower that comes down and tells people, now you must eat your peas. No, it's all about, we all have personalities, and I think it's being aware sometimes of our own bias, but also being open to the idea that sometimes we're wrong, but we have a dialogue, and we have a passionate dialogue, and we care about this country, we care about this community, and I think that sort of passion is what carries us through.
Hear more from David Schuster, Saturdays from 12 to 3 on Take Action News on We Act Radio, 1480 AM and weactradio.com.
The prodigal son of the DMV is back. Ladies and gentlemen, show your love for Rock Newman on The Rock Newman Show.
We Act Radio is a very proud partner of the Start at Westminster, a harm reduction, prevention, and awareness initiative sponsored by the Westminster Presbyterian Church right here in D.C. START stands for Syringe, Treatment, Advocacy, Resources, Training. These are the core elements of the harm reduction philosophy at START. The goal of this program is to reduce transmissions of HIV, hepatitis, and other bloodborne infectious diseases by empowering those at risk of infection with the tools, resources, and referrals they need to take charge of their health. Over the past year, the Start at Westminster tested over 1,600 people, and they're averaging about 150 tests each month. And of course, with the proper funding, that number could go even higher. For more information on this terrific program, go to www.startatwestminster.org or visit the Westminster Presbyterian Church, 400 I Street Southwest, right here in Washington, D.C.
The conversation that some people just don't care to have. We now rejoin the discussion on The Rock Newman Show.
This is The Rock Newman Show, and boy, this time has gone by so quickly. We're going to try to get to a couple of other issues here amongst us girls, and let me tell you who we have. We have Amanda Amann from Beverly Hills. We have Semia Ball to my left here, and Mia Thrash Esquire, I told you I like to say that, and Micheline Bowman from Fox Television, and I am your host for this hour, Raquel Newman, and this segment is called Just Us Girls. Girls.
Yes, Raquel.
We've talked about the money, we've talked about the trust, we've talked about stability, commitment, intelligence. Let's talk about sex for a minute.
Whoa.
Okay.
I'm a Scorpion, so I'm sorry.
Now, if let's deal with this really straight on. Mia, you take it first. You've got a guy, and he meets your criteria, whatever that particular criteria is, surface-wise. But now you get to however long it takes for you guys to share some true intimacy, 10 toes up and 10 toes down, and he's a dud in the bed.
Sorry, it's just not going to happen. If we're not sexually compatible, I don't care how good you are on paper, how good your bank account is. If you can't keep me happy in that bedroom, you can't keep me happy anywhere else. No amount of bags, shoes, houses, laughs, intelligence, nothing is
Louis
going to.
Fendi.
No. I'm a cry as a leave you, baby, but I got to go.
Yes.
I got to go. I don't want to put myself in a situation where I know I'm not happy with you. I don't want to be cheating on you for the rest of my life.
High five you over rock.
You might not be going back. You might not be going home, but you got to get the hell up out of here.
But let's be clear. I'm gonna give you a second try, because I know sometimes the first time things are a little nervous. You know, people got to feel each other out. You might have been a little excited. Maybe we were a little tired. I'm gonna give you that second try.
Okay, I can't wait to ask Simi about this. See, because Simi grew up in a very traditional, mostly strict, disciplined Indian household. So Simi,
take it away.
Come on, take it away.
Oh my God, my mom's gonna kill me. You know, sex to me was never important because I was always taught that was something you wait till marriage to do, and that, you know, whatever you end up with.
Are you married?
No, I'm not married. And
you ever
thank
had
God
sex?
I'm not married.
Yes,
I've had sex.
You skeezer.
Yeah. So, you know, and a lot of women in my community, they have arranged marriages. So who knows who the hell they're getting from India, you know, and I don't even know if they know where to put things. I don't know. There's a language gap too, right?
It's the language of love.
Yeah. Right.
Micheline.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay. Everything, he meets your criteria, and he's a zero and not no hero in the bedroom.
Mia, I have to go with Mia. It's a wrap. I'm sorry. Hey, if you
There's some other women sitting in here, and all these women in here are nodding their head.
Because sex is important, Rock. I mean, again, he can have the money, he can have everything, but if you're not sexually compatible, that is going to be a big issue. And any issue, I'm sorry. I can't even, I'm just like, I can't get it out. Only because, you know, we had this thing, and women chime in and if you believe they go, look at the size of his feet or his hands. You can't always go by that because a man can have some big feet.
I heard a new one. You look at how wide his nose is.
Oh, wow.
Oh. So think about that next time. It seems to be working. You look at how wide his nose is. Not how big, but how wide.
Amanda?
Ooh.
So go through your pictures on your phones, ladies, and see if that holds true.
A wide nose. Well, yes
and Amanda, I know you have to. I know you have to share secondhand experience about this because I know that you remain a virgin.
No.
But tell us what you think about that.
I think it's a part of your chemistry overall in a relationship. So if that's not there, that's a part of chemistry that's missing. So I would certainly pass.
Okay, look, guys. We talked about the sort of some of the difficulties of hooking up.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think about online dating?
Ugh,
well, I've tried it twice.
Absolutely
not.
You tried it twice?
I tried
I'm
it
scared.
twice.
Hate it.
Mm.
I'm scared.
Okay, so nobody like that.
No.
It's not so much I didn't like it. It's just that you open yourself up to a world of everybody.
Yeah, it's quantity over quality.
Yeah, so,
and people are using these filters, you know, like my friends are on these sites and they're always complaining, oh, well, he has such a great job. You know, I picked in the filter that he should make over $55,000. Well, what are you trying to build a bear or something? Build a man?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't work.
And they lie on that too.
Of course. And the women lie too. And they post pictures of them from 5 years ago when they weighed 110 pounds. And then the girl shows up and it's like, whoa, what happened?
Okay, so let me run around the horn here, as they say on the baseball field, and start with Simi. I'll start with you on this one. Other than I know that you are in a relationship. Mm-hmm. Other than that handsome stud that you're in the relationship with, I'm talking about a public figure. Who you got a crush on?
Oh man. Come back to me. There's a lot.
Okay,
come back to me.
Mia, other than Mia, who you got? Who do you have a crush on, Mia?
I'm trying to think. I don't really idolize celebrities. Can we come back to that? Can we come back?
Sure,
to that?
Micheline.
I'm right with them. I don't idolize any particular man, and there are people that say he can get it. Now I will say that there's celebrities who look and go, he could get it.
Who's one of them?
No, Rock, if I told you that, I'd tell you too much, Raquel, because he might be listening. I'm thinking that, then if I'm telling him, she can't get it.
Amanda, you got a big crush? Wait a minute. I know something about Amanda.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if it still exists, but Amanda had a serious crush on the guy from New Orleans, the singer from New Orleans. Amanda wanted to go to the NBA All-Star game, not for the sake of the NBA All-Star game, because this particular guy was performing. What was his name, Amanda?
Terry Connick Jr. That's it. Yes, I have a geeky crush. I do, but I find it, he's so romantic. He's like the adult Cinderella story. You think he's great, and he's very intelligent. He composes and rearranges all of his music himself. He's not the best actor or singer, but his heart is into music, and he's Southern. And, he recently got divorced from his French model wife, and they have 3 kids, and they live in Culver City. I don't know that because I'm
a little scared, Amanda.
She knows everything.
Hey, you know what I found fascinating? Just recently I found fascinating. I was with 3 teenagers. They were 18, 16, and 15, and they were sisters. And they were African American girls. All 3 of them were competing amongst themselves to marry Justin Bieber.
How is that going?
They were convinced. They were absolutely selling each other on the idea that each of them were going to marry Justin Bieber. Who's the number 1 heartthrob in Hollywood?
Gosh.
I mean, I think we grew up in just coming up.
Denzel,
Denzel is just still out there, but he's too old personally for me. But he's just still held out there.
Wait a minute. You mind telling your age, or you don't like to?
I'm very happy to tell my age. I'm 32, and I'll be 33 in May.
Okay,
and
so
I'm taking dates for my birthday.
So you're 32. And if I'm not mistaken, Denzel is 56, 55, 56.
Now, that's not to say that I have not dated older men, but I guess it's the combination of someone that my mother liked and him being married that makes him particularly off limits. That's not to say that I have not seen 54-year-old men in real life that I did not think were attractive.
Who's the heartthrob, Micheline?
For me, in my generation, I still say LL. It's just something about him.
You like it?
He could get it.
He could get it.
You like his lips like I like Gladys Knight's lips?
It's not so much his lips. He has that swagger that he exudes that. See, I can't even
What
talk.
I get from him is he's not going to call you in the morning. That's what I get from him.
But you know what?
But he going to throw you down real good at night.
Yes.
But again, communication, I'm going to let him know, this is what I want. Bye-bye.
Amanda, who's the heartthrob? You're out there. Who's the heartthrob out there?
I mean, the industry kind of deflates your balloon for everybody because you interact with them and you see them and you realize they're not that great. And like, wow, he made a really big deal because his meal wasn't vegan. Like, I'm good on that. I can't. They're very complex people. I have no desire for any of that. No bright lights.
Really, and you are amongst and in the midst of the industry out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it ain't all.
Yeah, I don't.
It ain't all it's cracked up to be.
No, not at all. You're dealing with like a Mariah Carey times 4. I don't want to come home for that. I'm good on that.
Ooh, Mariah Carey times 3. Simi.
Yeah, the men are insane, especially because you expect them to be masculine. It's really emasculating. Like, well, which headshot? Or like, did you like this script? Like, I couldn't, I'm so cool on that.
I think for my generation, the man of the hour is Ryan Gosling. I'm sure we've all heard of him. There's memes about him. He's kind of adorably clueless, but I have eyes for my boyfriend at the moment. So
Good answer.
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, got another one.
Especially since he's doing the camera work.
Oh, Mickey, what's your second one?
Idris Elba.
Oh, I like him.
See, I agree
like him a
he is
lot.
attractive, but after hearing about his 3 dissolved marriages, that was, a done. But
I'm sorry.
He
can still get it. I'm just going to say Idris can get it.
Well,
well, he frequents this area. He might.
This is going to.
I mean, I know him enough. Yes.
I want to share with my listening audience that this is going to be a more frequent session and segment on the Rock Newman show, Just Us Girls. I want to really thank you guys. Thank you, girls. Amanda Amann in Beverly Hills, Simia Brawl here, Mia Thrash Esquire, Micheline Bowman, and we're going to wrap this segment up. It has been my honor as Raquel Newman to host this particular segment. Stay where you are. We're coming back, and we're going to talk all things mental health. We have Mrs. DC America, Megan B. Barnes in the studio. I saw her walk through the door, and every man in here tripped over themselves, as they did with all the women that are here today. And we have Reverend Willie Wilson should be coming up, Raquel Ray Thomas, Dana Tolson Blake, Steve Barron, and we will also have Dr. Gary Bernard as soon as we get back at We Act Radio, 1450 AM on your radio dial.
We'll find out when the discussion continues after this on The Rock Newman Show.
Good God! I got to ask you what we need. Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry Soul Food. What we need. Soul food. Henry Soul Food.
Giving you the real on everything from politics, sports, and common everyday life issues. This is The Rock Newman Show.
I speak from Pennsylvania's death row.
A bright, shiny, highly mechanized hell.
Mumia Abu-Jamal is one of the lost souls of the revolution.
And they're trying to figure out how to shut him down entirely.
They have moved heaven and earth to stop his voice being heard in the United States.
When you talk about groups that are maligned and slurred as terrorists in the major media, they're really small fry. They're retail terrorists. Wholesale terrorists are the United States government.
The whole problem is really the blacks. The key is to devise a system that recognizes this while not appearing to.
On the move, this is Mumia Abu-Jamal.
Hi, I'm Tom Morello. Some call me the Night Watchman. In the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal is at a crucial stage. Please go to freemumia.com to find out more information about how you can help Mumia Abu-Jamal and other political prisoners. Night Watchman out.
This is Margaret Flowers.
And I'm Kevin Zeese. Join us every Monday morning at 11 a.m. for Clearing the Fog.
Speaking truth to expose the forces of greed.
Start the week with your eyes open.
The fog.
The forces of greed that spin news stories for the benefit of the 1%.
Each week we feature guests who are working to expose these truths and offer real solutions to the current crises we face.
Knowledge is power, and with knowledge you will be empowered to act to shift the power to the people.
Monday mornings at 11 a.m. on weactradio.com or 1480 a.m.
Hey, this is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've gotten based on the sale price of the car you choose. I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to timpohankaforthepeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people.
Real talk, real issues, real life.
I got a new sheriff in town.
We now return to The Rock Newman Show.
Hi, Grandpa. We're in Kingman. I love you. Tomorrow I'm on school on Monday. I love you. Happy New Year.
Folks, that cute little voice you hear is my granddaughter Mia, and I want to say hello to my baby in Las Vegas. I'm going to see you soon, honey. This segment of the Rock Newman Show here at WEAC Radio is all about mental health. I want to give out the number for you all to call in, because I don't have any doubt that there are a lot of folks that are out there that have certain issues, have certain problems. I've certainly lived long enough to understand that embarrassment, being ashamed, are two things that dramatically prevent those who are hit by the maladies, hit by the horror of some mental illnesses. You don't get help because you are embarrassed. You don't get help because you are ashamed. And I'm going to say, especially in the African American community, there is a stigma about mental health that prevents us from doing the things that we need to do to get better. And today's program is about trying to remove some of those stigmas, trying to have a candid, honest, forthright conversation about the subject of mental health, and having you to understand that there's nothing to be ashamed about. I mean, if you get diabetes, you get diabetes, you tell, hey, I get diabetes, I have to take insulin because insulin helps me to, counteract what's going on in my body that is causing me to have diabetes, and so on and so forth. And so we want to have an open and candid conversation. And when I came upon the knowledge that Megan B. Phillips, who was crowned on March the 16th, 2013 as Mrs. DC America, I was really, Megan, did I say that right? Megan B. Barnes. Megan B. Barnes, yes, was crowned Mrs. DC America, and that her platform was that of mental health. It really gave me the inspiration and the impetus to have this program. We here at WEAC Radio and on the Rock Newman Show, we want to talk about things that are fun. We want to talk about things that are important and relevant to our community. And this is something that is both important and relevant. Before I get into the meat of this program, because we have a group of panelists here that are just absolutely extraordinary. But before I do that, I said in the last segment that when Mrs. and folks and everybody else who watching and listening and looking in, I said Mrs. So what that mean? What do that mean? That means she is married. But Mrs. Megan P. Barnes, please stand up. And I know that the competition you were in had everything to do with personality and intellect and intelligence and all those things. But in the meantime and in between time, would you stand up and let our viewing audience from around the world see part of the reason why you might have been selected? Good God Almighty. Thank you. Thank you very much, Megan. Also joining us is Raquel Ray Thomas, who runs the Mrs. DC America pageant and is doing some really, really good work in the community. Steve Barron, who oversees the DC Mental Health Department, is here. The Washington DC Mental Health Director, Steve Barron, is here to talk to us for the entire hour. And we only have the dynamic, the unparalleled pastor of Union Temple Baptist Church, who has made such an incredible difference in this Washington, D.C. area, someone who is so highly respected locally, nationally, and internationally. He's been designated a king by more than one African official. Reverend Willie Wilson, welcome you all to the Rock Newman Show.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know what I want to do, Megan, if you would start, please, by giving us a brief understanding of why you've made mental health your platform as you serve out this term as Mrs. D.C. America.
Sure. Like you said earlier, there's a lot of stigma involved with mental health and mental illness. As a nation, I feel like we need to change the way we talk about mental health. There are people out there that are suffering in silence just because they can't get the resources they need, or they're shamed because they don't want to come out. There's so much stigma associated with it, and they can't work. Mental health is the number one disability for Social Security now. So I want to use my reign and my time to use my voice to just really get out there and speak as a young person that it's okay to talk about it.
Well, that is absolutely admirable. You know, when I started to put this program together, and I really want to go to Reverend Wilson because he's short on time. There's an article, I think it was both in the Washington Post and in the New York Times, that spoke of the religious community's reaction, observation about mental health, and that there were many people within the religious community that took the approach that there's God lacking in your life, or you don't have enough God, you haven't done enough prayer. Get down on your knees, and God will solve all of your problems. And as a pastor of one of the most prominent congregations, Reverend Wilson, in the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area, I'd like to get your reaction to that.
Well, let me just say good morning to everyone that's here. My pleasure to be here with all of you in the midst of a 24-hour manhood training rites of passage program. That's why I'll have to scurry in just a few moments. But I think that you kind of hit it on the head in your introductory remarks when you were talking about the fact that many, and if we say that the church in African-American community particularly is the most influential institution in our community, having the ability to bring together more masses of our people than anywhere, and then to put forth a teaching as is done that Jesus will fix it, that Jesus will fix everything. And we have to understand that God would not, I believe, give us all the different helping professionals that we have who have to deal with some very deep and profound issues that people have. And again, particularly and especially among the African American community, because you don't overcome severe trauma overnight. And particularly as relates to our people and what we've gone through from slavery even up to now, there are many problems that we just can't say, pray, and Jesus is going to fix it. Sometimes we need some pills, and sometimes we need some therapy.
Well, that certainly would be my approach to, the subject, that it makes no sense. And I would ask you, Reverend Wilson, again, those that suggest that, take it to Jesus, and they do that in an exclusive way, denying what would be the benefit and the incredible help of health professionals. What is the motivation? What do you see? Can you read their minds?
Well, a lot of it is just the narrow parochial view that they have. They have been, and there is a need for some, if you will, interdisciplinary training. And I've been an advocate of this for some time. In fact, I was just communicating with a doctor up at Washington Hospital Center just last week, and they are working on a program that they want to infuse in our churches across the Washington metropolitan area as a pilot project, whereby they get churches more involved in understanding that there's the need for this kind of cooperative effort in bringing together helping professionals along with those who minister to people from a religious perspective to deal with their problem. But in fact, if you go to seminary today, And I very much believe that, as Dr. Howard Thurman, one of my mentors, who was also the mentor for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he said it is specious to think that the God of religion is not also the God of life, and that God is not concerned with one's political, economic, social, every aspect of an individual's life. And so in that regard, if you take that to a clergyman's perspective, there is the need for some level of interdisciplinary training whereby pastors learn at least some rudiments of psychological approaches and all of what involves in dealing with the mind and mental issues that people might have.
You know, I frankly needed Reverend Wilson to come in this morning. I needed to hear that perspective. More importantly, I wanted my listening audience and those that are viewing around the world to hear the wisdom of a gentleman who's been a pastor and coming up on a very important anniversary. Which one is this?
Number 40.
The big 40.
I know I don't look like what I've been through.
No, you don't. No, you certainly don't. You certainly don't. But a gentleman who has pastored in this community for 40 years, who has studied, who is one of the most highly respected ministers, persons of the cloth in this area or any other area. Because frankly speaking, the reason why I said I needed his voice, Megan and Raquel and Steve, is because as we frame this subject, what I wanted the listening audience to hear from a professional, from a person of the cloth, from a studied minister, was that it's crazy when you talk about, just thinking you can drop on your knees and that's going to solve all of your problems. And certainly Reverend Wilson said it in a more, intelligent, articulate way than I could. And so I really appreciate you, Reverend Wilson, for bringing that perspective. We're going to go to a break, but that really helps us frame the rest of this argument. And you're wonderful as you always have been. I thank you for your time here. This 20 minutes has gone by unbelievably fast, and we're going to go to a break and come right back and continue. We're going to bring in Dana Tolson Blake, and then later we're also going to bring in Dr. Gary Bernard from San Antonio, Texas, who is the author of Becoming a Power Parent: 7 Quality Principles to Creating a Healthy Family. He is a PhD and a clinical psychologist. We'll be back after these messages.
What do you care about? We'll find out when the discussion continues after this on The Rock Newman Show. You're listening to We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM. Visit us online at weactradio.com.
The sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry's soul food. What we need. Soul food.
Giving you the real on everything from politics, sports, and common everyday life issues. This is The Rock Newman Show.
My baby drives a pro handcuff. The weekend is here, and no matter what the weather's like outside, you'll find the deals inside here in the beautiful showroom of the all-new Pohanka Hyundai in Capitol Heights during their giant Markdown Madness sale.
Smart shoppers know that every new Hyundai in Pohanka comes with Hyundai Assurance and America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. But why don't you tell them about the Markdown sale, Joe?
I'll be happy to, Kim. Folks, shop around on the web, and you'll see lease payments on a new 2013 Elantra GLS at $179 a month. Today at Pohanka Hyundai, $99 a month. That's right, a $99 payment on a brand new Elantra.
And $89 a month on a new 2013 Accent GLS Automatic. How do they do it, Joe?
It must be the volume, Kim. A brand new building, hundreds of new Hyundais, and Pohanka's low payment and easy credit programs are designed to get everybody driving. But you have to get here today. Rush to the giant Markdown Madness sale at exit 13 off the Capitol Beltway.
Pohanka Hyundai, king of the Beltway. All financing for a limited term on approved HMF credit.
My baby drives a Pohanka.
I'm Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico. Last year, my state became the 12th state to allow medical use of marijuana by patients who are seriously ill. Some people were surprised that a Republican governor supports medical marijuana, but I'm hardly alone. Groups like the American College of Physicians, American Nurses Association, and American Public Health Association have all acknowledged the medical value of marijuana. New research about medical marijuana is coming out almost every day, showing remarkable potential in all sorts of serious conditions, including cancer, AIDS, and chronic pain. But some in government still want to put politics and ideology ahead of public health. To learn more about medical marijuana and what you can do to help, contact the Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or visit them on the web at mpp.org. Thanks.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at We Act Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, the Ark. The Ark is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The Ark is also home to the Ark Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you could want is at the Ark, so stop by and see them. The Ark, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast. For more information, visit the Ark's website, www.thearkdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The Ark, part of Southeast D.C.
Real talk, real issues, real life.
I got a new sheriff in town.
We now return to the Rock Newman Show.
Welcome back to the Rock Newman Show. We want to come right back to our guest here, Reverend Willie Wilson. I want to thank him again for sharing his wisdom and helping us to frame this issue of mental health. Still in studio is Mrs. D.C. America, Megan B. Barnes, Raquel Riley Thomas, Dana Tolson Blake has joined us. Dana, thanks for joining us on the Rock Newman Show. You're welcome. And Steve Barron. Steve Barron is the director, District of Columbia, Department of Mental Health. Raquel Riley Thomas, you run Mrs. D.C. America. And some folks probably say, well, what is that? Why do we need another pageant? What does a pageant do? Well, one thing is self-explanatory, as when you have someone like Megan B. Barnes who talks about this kind of platform, its importance in that regard is self-evident. What do you try to accomplish with Mrs. D.C. America?
Well, first and foremost, one of the things that we try to accomplish is we want to recognize women who are 18 and older, who are married, and who live or work within a 25-mile radius of D.C. And we'd like to recognize them on what we like to call PPC, their personal, professional, and community achievements. The bottom line is that they are leaders within their own right in their communities. So on each year, we have a competition, and these leaders come out and compete. Now, of course, they do have the regular pageantry stuff of interview, swimsuit, and evening gown. However, what's different from most pageants, which are normally the Misses, they have already established themselves in the communities. They are already out there rolling up their sleeves, jumping in and running to make things happen in their community. So that's why we are so privileged and honored to have Megan as our new Mrs. DC America, because she is focusing on a topic that is so quiet.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming
swept
very,
under the rug,
yes,
under the rug.
so
And we're
this
lifting the rug up here today.
Yes, and that is one of the reasons why we are able to, we love having the Mrs. DC America pageant, because just as so, she is the backbone of the community. Married women are the backbone of the community. They have to make sure that they take care of their husbands, their children, and the community itself. So when they stand up and voice their opinions on particular platforms and bring awareness to the community, everyone sits down and listens. And that's exactly what is happening with Megan, and we're very proud of her.
Yes, and I'm very proud to have you, Megan, as a participant today. I actually was introduced and became aware that you were Mrs. DC America through the person that is sitting to my left, Dana Tolson. What do we got? Dana Tolson Blake. Dana, you had a very candid interaction with me, both by phone and through Facebook. And frankly speaking, she's the one that informed me about, your victory and your platform and the need to introduce this to our listening audience. And Dana, I would like you, in your own words, Dana is recently retired from the Air Force, 26 years in the Air Force, recently retired and moved back to the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. And you came here, and part of what struck me was your candor about mental health issues and your own personal struggles. And if I remember correctly, you said that, you suffered from depression and anxiety. And in your transition back to the D.C. area, having retired, one of the challenges that you faced had something to do with not being able to get your medicines or to get them on time. And I thought, just as a baseline for folks to understand some of the issues that we have to deal with in the mental health community, for you to share your story.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Rock, for inviting me, and I'm glad you were able to get Mrs. DC America on the show. Mrs. DC America pageant is great. We had one in Arizona as well. I was Mrs. Surprise in 2005, so that's why I was really, really impressed about you, and I'm glad you were able to come. But as far as the mental health issue goes, I did spend 26 years in the Air Force as a medical technician. And a lot of the mental health issues that people have, they think, especially through the military, they think came from serving in Iraq and seeing dead people and going through all the things that they go through going to Iraq and Afghanistan. I did go to Iraq. I went to Saudi Arabia in 2000. I went to Iraq in 2010. But most of my issues did not come from there. It kind of helped with it, but it didn't really come from there. They came from personal issues with work, family, things of that nature. And being able to have access to care through the military was great. And the military used to have a lot of issues with people going to get seen too, because to have a mental health stamp in your record was like, uh-oh, something's wrong with them. Mm-hmm. And it could have had an effect on your job. Whereas they used to change it to, also to life skills at one point. They changed it from mental health to life skills. And a lot more people went because they didn't have the stigma of the word mental health. Mm-hmm. But now, coming back to the area, I really didn't realize how long it takes to get an initial appointment with a psychiatrist. And if you're on medication, you have to be seen by a psychiatrist, not just a psychologist. So when I finally did call around the end of February, I couldn't get an appointment till the middle of May. And when I told them that I was going to run out of meds before then, they were like, well, there's really nothing we can do at that point. So I said, you would rather me run out of meds, go through a withdrawal type system, have to go maybe to an ER to be seen or maybe get a bed, to waste that time when I have copies of my medical records to show that I've been on this medication. I have a provider that you can call and speak to confirm this, and I still couldn't get it. That was really upsetting to me. I was able to go through a primary doctor and get my medication, but luckily if I was not able to get that appointment, I would have been in a lot of trouble. And
wow.
It's
see,
not good.
And I really wanted, again, as I said, the baseline, Steve Barron, Director of District of Columbia Department of Mental Health. I wanted you to hear that story before you commented, because I can only imagine that as an administrator in a large city like the District of Columbia, that these are the kind of issues that you must work hard to prevent.
Yeah, that's right, Rock. And first of all, I want to thank you for this show. It is so great to have Mrs. DC make mental health her platform, and to have Reverend Wilson here, and to have our other guest here, because we really have to demystify mental illness, and that treatment works, and you need to get help. This story is a great example, though. You can demystify it all you want, but if you can't get help, people will lose confidence in you. And as the public system, we make access to care one of our it's our mantra. It's really how you want to measure yourself in any situation like this is really a failure of the health system, because where people get help is really dictated by their insurance. But in the district, for folks who are known to the DC public mental health system are eligible for it, which means predominantly folks have an income of less than 200% of poverty, or on Medicaid, or Health Alliance, the DC Health Alliance, we really have structured our system so we have a walk-in service, and you can walk in at 35 K Street Northeast, the Department of Mental Health operated clinic. There's a pharmacy there.
Let me stop you for a minute, Steve, because there's some folks that are out there listening right now, and hopefully they are being inspired by hearing this. You say demystify. Megan says take the stigma away. Dana says take the stigma away from the issue of mental health, the embarrassment. Please give out that address again in the event that there is someone out there struggling right now, so that they can know what options are available.
35 K Street Northeast, which is basically First and K Northeast by Union Station. We also have an 800 number, or an 888 number. It's a 24/7 number, 818-888-793-4357.
Folks out there, if you or you have a relative or a friend or anyone that you might know that is struggling with the issues of mental health in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, please take these numbers down. They are an invaluable resource.
I'll give it again.
Give it again slowly,
And this is for district only, but they will connect you to other places.
Understand.
1-888-793-4357. 24/7. They'll connect you to mental health. If you happen to have private insurance, they'll help you walk through that. If you don't, they'll tell you where you're eligible to receive services.
Okay. Let me come back to Mrs. DC America for a moment, Megan.
Yes.
Why did you choose this? Is this an issue that you've had some personal challenges with, someone that's important to you had challenges with? What made you choose this as your platform? And let me just say again, we applaud you.
Thank you. Yes, well, anxiety and depression runs in my family, and they're all inside of my family. I've done things in my life to eliminate stress and anxiety from my life, as far as changing my eating habits, lifestyle changes, affirmations. So it is something that I take a personal interest in, and that just gives me much more reason to want to reach out and help other people to know that there is hope, that you can overcome it, and it's okay to speak up and get the help that you need.
When you say you've made lifestyle changes that have made a change, that have made a difference in terms of diet, give me an example as to, say, something you either added or eliminated that you know made a difference.
Yes, so I'm a firm believer in what we put inside of our body affects the way how we feel on the inside and the outside. I've incorporated green juicing. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am.
It's been like a lifesaver for me. It just makes me feel so good. I've eliminated a lot of meats and dairy from my diet. So I'm basically, I would say, more plant-based, whole grains, because our food system these days, we all know it's full of additives, chemicals, preservatives, all kinds of things that are scary out there. So I just eliminated a lot of things that are bad for me, putting in the good things, and I've just a totally new person.
Okay, so you became on March the 16th. You were crowned as Mrs. DC America. In that world, what's next for you?
So on August 28th, I compete for Mrs. America in Tucson, Arizona. I'll be in Arizona from the 20th through the 28th. And if I win Mrs. America, I then will go on to Mrs. World.
When she wins.
When I win.
That's right. You're going to win, girl. You're going to win. You're going to win. You're going to win on the merit, and then we're going to send some fellas out there to help make sure. Dana, you had those challenges. You really, I can imagine that if you have anxiety, and let me just say this. I never necessarily characterized myself as having mental illness. Many other people have. But one of the things that I suffer from is claustrophobia. So, to the extent that that's a mental health issue, when I hear you say that there might have been a 3-month lag in when you could have gotten your medicine, and I think, for example, if I get on a plane, if sort of the claustrophobia overcomes me, I've had to get off of a plane. So I can only imagine the sense of panic that might have come upon you when you were told you suffer from anxiety and depression, and you're told you might not be able to get your medicines, which are needed to regulate whatever's going on in your body so that you don't get into a deep depression or have, just runaway anxiety.
Exactly. And I'm a very proactive person, so I felt that what I was doing was very proactive, meaning trying to get my appointments, early. But I had no idea, coming from a military background, I had no idea in the civilian sector that it took so long to get an initial appointment. And not just for me, but anybody that's moving from one area to another. And to even have my records with me, and all of that made absolutely no difference. So that was what kind of bothered me. But I was able to kind of work around the system and be able to get some through a primary provider who I was able to get an appointment with a lot quicker than a mental health appointment.
Right. Okay, folks, we have another 20 minutes to go here. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to get Dr. Gary Bernard on the phone and continue this in very, very important subject. See you in a moment.
Newman Show will be back after this.
This is Kimon Freeman, host of Speak Easy and co-founder of We Act Radio. Suicide is a very serious problem in today's challenging world, whether with our troops abroad or with everyday citizens within our own society. Before you take your life into your own hands, tie a knot at the end of your rope and call the suicide hotline toll-free at 1-855-320-LIFE. That's 1-855-320-LIFE. It may just be the most important call you ever make. You talk, we listen, and together we survive.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
Let me tell you who to blame. Blame the boy lying at your feet, his body oozing life through the hole in his stomach where the bullet tore him apart. Blame him for challenging you, for not looking away and for not backing down when you pulled out the gun. Blame your mother for bringing you into this world when she was but a kid herself and for dragging you up, not bringing you up. Blame society for not giving you hope. Blame your father for not being there, the man who looked after himself instead of looking after you. Blame the gun in your hand for making you a target, for making you more likely to be picked on. Blame the dead boy, blame your mother, blame society, blame your father, blame the gun, blame anyone but yourself for not being strong enough to put down the gun, to break the cycle.
The prodigal son of the DMV is back. Ladies and gentlemen, show your love for Rock Newman on The Rock Newman Show.
Pohanka Acura's huge March sales event is going on now. Get one of the new 2013 TLs for as low as $199 per month, or get the brand new 2013 MDX for only $254 a month. Come find out why price and selection have made Pohanka the world's largest.
We Act Radio is a very proud partner of the Start at Westminster, a harm reduction, prevention, and awareness initiative sponsored by the Westminster Presbyterian Church right here in D.C. START stands for Syringe, Treatment, Advocacy, Resources, Training. These are the core elements of the harm reduction philosophy at START. The goal of this program is to reduce transmissions of HIV, hepatitis, and other bloodborne infectious diseases by empowering those at risk of infection with the tools, resources, and referrals they need to take charge of their health. Over the past year, the Start at Westminster tested over 1,600 people, and they're averaging about 150 tests each month. And of course, with the proper funding, that number could go even higher. For more information on this terrific program, go to www.startatwestminster.org or visit the Westminster Presbyterian Church, 400 I Street Southwest, right here in Washington, D.C.
The conversation that some people just don't care to have. We now rejoin the discussion on The Rock Newman Show.
Welcome back, folks, to the final segment of this hour of The Rock Newman Show, all you ever wanted to know about mental health. I want to reset and let you know that we have in studio with us Mrs. DC America, Megan B. Barnes. We have Raquel Riley Thomas, who is doing great work with the Mrs. DC America pageant. Dana Tolson Blake, recently retired, 26 years Air Force Chief Master Sergeant?
No,
Master
just
Sergeant.
a Master
Sergeant. Okay, and Steve Barron, Director of DC Department of Mental Health. On the phone with us from San Antonio, Texas, is Dr. Gary Bernard. Dr. Bernard is a practicing child psychologist for close to 3 decades and has written a very popular book called Becoming a Power Parent, 7 Guiding Principles of Creating a Healthy Family. Dr. Gary Bernard, thank you so much for joining us at The Rock Newman Show.
You're so welcome. Good morning, Rock, and good morning to your guests.
How's the grandkids' T-ball game going?
Oh, it is outstanding. You couldn't ask for a better morning for baseball.
Well, that's great. We're having a great day here in Washington, D.C. also. I want to give out the number, folks, if you call to join in. We do have a line open. It is 202-889-9797. Gary, before you came on, we had a minister in studio with us, a very prominent and popular pastor from a local church here. And I shared with him the articles that I read recently where some church members were talking about church leaders. We're talking about, one of the ways to deal with mental health was to get away from all the drugs and get away from all the counseling and get on their knees and pray to Jesus. And Reverend Wilson certainly, as a Christian minister, is very big on Jesus. But he said that he felt that was some very erroneous teachings and talk, that you needed the care of health professionals. Your response?
I'm with him all the way. As a person of faith, I would agree that we needing to be on our knees in prayer, but I think this is not a mutually exclusive thing. I think we need everything that we can get. I think God created us to be creators in His image, and one of the things is the same science that helps us with physical medicine can help us with mental health issues just as well.
As I said in the introduction, sitting here with us is Mrs. DC America. Her name is Megan B. Barnes. She will be competing for Mrs. America, and when she wins that, going on to be Mrs. World. And there are a whole lot of reasons why this lady was selected, and I only wish you could see some of them. And I'm going to say it again. Good God Almighty.
Good luck to you, Megan.
Thank you.
And she has made mental health her platform. Talk to us, if you will, about what you experience in people's hesitancy and their reticence to come in to deal with our real life issues of a mental health nature.
Yeah, this is a pretty unique thing, but it goes way back. The stigma that's attached to talking about these health issues that are more emotional and behavioral. That we're really into privacy, and I understand that. We don't want people to know about physical illness for the most part, but it's something that is easier talked about. When we talk about these mental, emotional difficulties, they're just, the brain is such a complex part of our body, and our experiences, it's multi-factored. There's so many things that come together that influence our health, and to go in and actually ask for help is, for many people and in many cultures, a sign of weakness. It's a sign of sort of it's taboo, breaking the rules. You don't air your dirty laundry, all that sort of thing. So these are the difficulties. Every time someone comes into my office, whether it's about their children or themselves, it's a very difficult thing to come in and just sort of bare your soul. And it doesn't usually happen day one. It's a process. And if we can find that it's helpful, then that is strengthened, and we're more willing to reach out and talk and ask for help and get some education. And I'm so happy that is her platform, because we need to get that out to people.
Stephen, for the listening audience, I'll tell you something. Many folks don't understand the difference between psychologists and psychiatrists. And if in the most sort of elementary form, do it for me, sort of listening and understanding for a dummy, can you explain the difference as to who might best be served by a psychologist, who might be best served by a psychiatrist, and why?
Is that for Stephen, or is that
I'm sorry, no, that was I said Stephen, but I meant you, Gary. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. Well, when we look at the training part, a psychiatrist is someone that goes to medical school, and they get the general medical training, and then they do a transitional year internship and a residency where they learn about psychiatry or the brain and the mind, and that training has changed over the years. At one time, it involved a whole lot more therapy and those sorts of things. Now it seems to have moved, maybe by economic reasons, to drug therapy. But a psychologist, it depends on
Gary.
Yes.
Gary, before you go to explaining the psychologist, you said there were changes as a result of economic reasons. Please illuminate on that for us, please.
When people are diagnosed with major health illnesses, then the treatment typically would involve some biological-based treatment. So that's pharmacological or drug treatment. And if that diagnosis is made, whether a great deal of attention's been given to it and some objective measures have been used or not, if that diagnostic code is used because of our health insurance, then it sort of substantiates using this big, heavy-hitting medical kind of model, okay? And I'm not saying it's inappropriate. I'm saying it can be. But that has changed over the years, hugely so. And so the training has changed to keep up with that. Younger psychiatrists come out, and they've, in most programs, have very little actual therapy, talk therapy, and reviewing the literature about that.
Hey, Gary, one of the people I have in studio with me is the director of the mental health for the District of Columbia, Stephen Barron. Now, Stephen, I would ask you as an administrator to respond to what Gary said.
Yeah. Well, Gary has captured it. Remember, the world is divided in many different places, and one place is on people who are commercially insured who need treatment, and oftentimes the insurance companies would rather pay for a clinical psychologist, a social worker, a licensed certified professional counselor, who are all trained and can provide the range of therapies, as can a psychiatrist. but a psychiatrist are often used for medications, support, and they may pair with some of the other mental health professionals. And a number of psychiatrists, of course, run their own private practices and will do both pharmacological work and psychotherapy. But the average person and the average plan, in terms of who you would see for your primary mental health care, is most likely going to be a master's certified mental health professional or a PhD psychologist.
Gary, let me come back to you. So many of the problems that we see in society today come from folks who at a very early age had issues that perhaps were diagnosed incorrectly, that they weren't diagnosed at all. Can you tell us a little bit about how environment and diet has changed, where we have so many more kids diagnosed with attention deficit syndrome?
Yes, that's a huge issue in our media, in the popular media, and I think in our field. There are so many things that have changed. One is we're learning more about the brain and about these things, and so we can identify them when they are significant problems and they cause actual practical, functional, daily life issues. And that's a very important thing to do, but the misdiagnosis may be primarily driven by this economical sort of healthcare model with insurances. And it's one thing to treat someone who is struggling mightily because of this very well-defined syndrome, as you say, or disorder, and because of it, they're at a higher risk for all sorts of problems in their life. So early treatment makes very good sense in terms of mental health, overall health. But families are under more tension. People are under more tension and stress than ever before. We're bombarded with information overload. Everything is in sound bites. We live in this microwave society where everything has to be quick. And divided attention and resource management of attention is a huge issue. And I think all of these things, maybe diet somewhat, but there's been a ton of research on diet, and there's no causal effect ever seen. I think it can make matters worse if a child is allergic to certain foods and additives and so forth. But that's just common sense. We don't want any kids who are hypersensitive to these things to be eating those substances. So good common sense plays a big role here. If anything, ADHD as a disorder is undertreated. That may sound wrong. It's underdiagnosed, undertreated when it needs to be. It is misdiagnosed many times, and I think when children are having problems educationally, the first thing teachers and others do is maybe refer because they're not paying attention, they're off task. Many things can cause that kind of distractibility, anxiety problems, stress at home, adjustment kinds of issues. And I think these are just things that need to be looked at subjectively through report from teachers and parents, but also objectively, meaning using appropriate scales, inventories, sort of the state-of-the-art that we have.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Dana, I want to ask you again, I want to thank you for, helping to initiate this particular conversation. How are you now? Do you feel as if you have your issues properly managed at this point in your life? That just recently retired?
I will. I was doing fine while I was on active duty, and now that I'm in a different state of my career,
Right.
Getting ready to move on to a second career, is a little adjustment as well. So being able to be seen by a provider in this DC, Maryland, Virginia area is going to really help me to adjust to that either, because life is just a series of adjustments. There's nothing constant in life but change. So if you can adapt to the change and keep moving forward, then that's where it is. And then you got to stop looking back, and that's where a lot of my issues were, to keep looking back, and I got to just stop doing that and look forward to what's coming up.
Steve Barron, before we wrap up with Megan here, as the director of the D.C. Department of Mental Health, what parting words would you like to give to the listening and viewing audience?
Treatment works, and it is important when you are in need of treatment, because there is some impairment in your life. You should seek treatment, and you should do everything you can to get treatment. Also, we can do a much better job of supporting our friends, neighbors, and other citizens in this work. Megan, before we went on air, was telling me about her support groups that she's involved with. These are extremely, extremely important to use our natural support groups. And if I can give a 1-second plug, actually, on mental health first aid. We've talked about CPR and all that emergency work. But there's an emerging practice of mental health first aid, where we train citizens, we train people who come in contact with folks who have a mental illness problem. We don't know what to do about it. So it's a 12-hour course. We offer it through the department. I'd love to give out that number if I can.
Give it out quickly.
And just ask for Dr. Reeves at 202-671-4080. If anyone's interested in taking the course, we'd be glad to offer it. It's 202-671-4080. I think what you're going to see in the field emerging in the next couple of years, hopefully, is better preventive work, better early identification work. That's where we need to put our effort. But we also have to keep our eye on the ball, which is access and access to quality care.
Here I like to try to keep things really simple. And Megan, he talked about your conversation about the self-help groups. And you know what? A self-help group typically is a group that will help you help yourself.
Yeah.
That's real simple, and that's how we like to keep it here. Tell me about the self-help groups that you refer to.
Yeah, so I run a group on meetup.com. If you search for women with anxiety, it'll pop up. It's right now, I started about 8 months ago. We have about 150 women. We meet throughout the DC area, usually metro accessible, so everybody can get there. And it's just a peer-to-peer support group. There's no doctors or counselors. It's just hearing stories from other women that inspire you, and people, get doctor's information or help or therapy recommendations from other women in the group. And I also want to run a Facebook page and if you type in Women Conquering Anxiety, we have about 2,500 women on that page from 21 different countries all around the world. And it's just, once again, another way for people who don't realize there are other people out there who are suffering from the same thing, to just a light bulb go off and be like, wow, there's someone else out there who is suffering, and there's hope out there.
Gary, there are folks out there, Dr. Gary Bernard in San Antonio, Texas. There are folks out there who are suffering. Some parting words from you, please.
Well, reach out, first of all, with your family. You've got to open a dialogue about what's going on, and our tendency is to bury that and avoid it, like we do with a lot of things that are distressful. Start there, then start asking for help through support groups, through churches. Find people who know someone who has helped them. Try to follow that line of help. When you establish some trust and confidence with someone, dig in, and that's where you start to improve your life by understanding and being educated properly about mental health issues. So the first step is don't avoid. Go ahead and reach out and speak the words to someone close to you that you trust.
Okay. Thank you, Gary, and thank all of my guests. Really, truly. Megan, a big hat off to you for representing the Washington, D.C. area. We'll be applauding you and paying attention to your journey here, and we certainly wish you much success. It takes someone like yourself to do something important in the community that allows this kind of galvanizing coming together. And without people like yourself, it makes it more difficult. With people like yourself, it makes it a little bit easier, because we're talking about a very important subject that it is more than past the time to take the stigma away from. And you are a great representative to do that. Thank you so much all for joining the Rock Newman Show.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to have you all back again.
Definitely.
Certainly after you win Mrs. America.
Yes, I will get back.
Want you to come back in here again. And Raquel, thank you so very much for helping to put this together. This is another hour down on the Rock Newman Show, and we'll be back in the next hour to talk about 42, the movie, the legacy of Jackie Robinson. We will be joined by former Washington Senator, Major League Baseball player Fred Valentine, and Chris Meade will be here in studio. Chris Meade is a lawyer extraordinaire and author of Black Champion in White America, and Joe Lewis, and has a very interesting take on this subject. We'll see you right after these very important messages.
What do you care about? We'll find out when the discussion continues after this on The Rock Newman Show.
Good God, I got to ask you, what we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. You know I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. What we need? Soul Food. Henry Soul Food.
Giving you the real on everything from politics, sports, and common everyday life issues. This is The Rock Newman Show.
Hey, this is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've gotten based on the sale price of the car you choose. I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POHANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to TimPohankaForThePeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people.
June 27th is National HIV Testing Day.
HIV testing is fast, painless, and often free.
I've been tested for HIV.
I've been tested for HIV. Have you? To find an HIV testing center near you, visit greaterthan.org.
Hi, I'm Tom Morello. Some call me the Night Watchman. In the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal is at a crucial stage. Please go to freemumia.com to find out more information about how you can help Mumia Abu-Jamal and other political prisoners. Night Watchman out.
Hi, my name is Mark Levine. I host the Inside Scoop on Washington every Sunday from noon to 3 p.m. on We Act Radio. I've been hosting the Inside Scoop since 2003 when I quit my job as a congressional attorney. I began on a suburban radio station in Northern Virginia. Since then, I've been syndicated nationwide. I've been on XM Sirius Radio. I regularly appear on the Bill O'Reilly Show, and I take down Sean Hannity. He says I give him a headache. So I don't just take apart the right wing. I bring them on my show. I give the debates that you want to hear when you argue with your colleagues. the water cooler, at the family dinner table, those benighted conservatives that, let's face it, we all have as our family and friends. So check out the Inside Scoop. We deal with everything: economics, law, politics. Sometimes we even have Nancy Skinner on and she makes me talk about Kim Kardashian, but I don't like that. So we have a well-balanced meal of radio for you. Check out the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Mark Levine, every Sunday, noon to 3 p.m., right here on We Act Radio.
Real talk, real issues, real life.
I got a new sheriff in town.
We now return to the Rock Newman Show.
Hey, I just wanted to say that I looked at the pictures with the little deers. They're so cute. Thank you for sending them. Bye, Grandpa. I miss you. Bye. Oh, and tell Grammy I said hi. Bye.
And we're back for the final hour of the Rock Newman Show today, April the 13th. Man, this has been great stuff. I love what I'm doing here at We Act Radio 1480. I said 1450 earlier, and we don't have the kind of insecurity here at We Act Radio that we can't talk about other radio stations. We celebrated for an entire hour WVON from Chicago last week. So earlier when I misspoke and said 1450, well, that's the big OL here in this area, WOL, which is an institution in itself. But we are 1480. And glad to have you as listeners and those of you viewing around the world. Welcome to this last hour. I want to give out the telephone number to join us. This segment is called 42, the movie and the Jackie Robinson legacy. I have joining in studio Christopher Meade. Christopher Meade wrote this book. I'll hold it up for those of you at home. It is called Joe Louis, Black Champion in White America. And we have, so Chris is in the studio. And online with us from Philadelphia is Fred Valentine, who was one of the most exciting Washington Senator baseball players to ever put on a uniform. Fred Valentine, if I might tell a not so secret, Fred Valentine is 78 years old. He looks like he's 38 years old, and when he squeezes your hand for a handshake, you'll think that he's a 25-year-old football player, and he was a great football player in addition to being a baseball player. Fred Valentine, welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
Ross, it's great to be here, and thanks for having me on.
It is certainly our pleasure. And Chris Meade, thanks for coming all the way over here to Southeast Washington, D.C. on Martin Luther King Avenue from your palatial estate up in Potomac, Maryland. Thank you, Chris, for joining us.
It's a privilege to be here.
Folks, I saw the movie 42 on Thursday night. I think the actual release date was supposed to be yesterday. But I had an opportunity to do an early viewing, and I want to urge and encourage all of you who are not just baseball fans or sports fans or fans of civil rights, but, if you look at American history, Jackie Robinson is American history. I had a brief conversation with Fred Valentine, which I'll share in a moment. But the movie is a story of commitment. It's a story of loyalty. It's a story of dedication. It's a story of courage. It's the story of courage. What comes to mind when I say that is the courage of a Branch Rickey to defy the odds at his time, to defy the U.S. code of conduct at that time that for so very long had denied black players the opportunity to play in the major leagues. And, say of him what you will, whatever his motivation might have been, Branch Rickey stepped out there, put his neck on the chopping block. He tried something whose time was way past time. He got roundly criticized. They tried to run him out of Brooklyn. They tried to run him out of America. They called him everything, including the son, and not except, but including the son of Satan. And he was determined to take Robinson on. First taking him to Montreal, and then allowing him to be a member of the Brooklyn Dodgers on opening day, 1947. We're having here a bit of an issue. We thought we were going to have Ralph Branca, and some say Branca, on the line, and we don't have him yet. We'll keep trying. But if we don't, we certainly are going to proceed and talk about Jackie Robinson, his legacy. And one of the reasons that I was so excited to get Chris Meade on, because one might ask the question, why are you bringing the author of a book on Joe Louis on when you're talking about Jackie Robinson? And we certainly are going to get to that. Chris has an interesting and I think informative take on that matter. But first, the first thing I'd like to do is, Fred Valentine, you played Major League Baseball. You were certainly, acutely aware of the Negro Leagues, the impact of the Negro Leagues, and the impact of Jackie Robinson on the game and on America. You grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. When you knew that Jackie Robinson was going to be on the team and play opening day 1947, if my math serves me correctly, you were about 12 years old at that time. Take us back to that moment, you being in Memphis, Tennessee, and knowing that the first black player ever was going to play in the major leagues.
It was historical to me, and it's something I could not believe, just as I could not believe when President Obama won the presidency. I didn't think that I would live to see that day, because I was just raised there in Memphis, and it was just known that the blacks had their places and the whites had their places. They had the Memphis Chicks and the Memphis Red Sox, which was the Negro League. And I would just go out to see the Negro League games, and when I went to see the Memphis Chicks, which was AA baseball on the professional side, I couldn't actually get into the stadium. I would ride my bicycle about 10 miles across town to see the Memphis Chicks, and I would get up in a tree out there where the hospital is right now and watch 6 or 7 innings of the baseball game, get back down out of the tree and get on my bike and go back across town just because I wanted to watch baseball. But I grew up in that area when that was life, and we accepted it as it was.
Hey, Fred, let me understand something. So what you're saying is you would go to the game, watch the game from a tree because they didn't even allow you to buy a ticket to come in? Was that it?
Well, I don't know if they allowed you to buy a ticket, but I never did really see blacks there in the stadium.
Sort of unwritten rule, if you will. I understand.
Right, that was it. It was an unwritten rule, and so I wanted to see what was so different between the Negro League and the Memphis Chicks, the White League, until I would go out, and I couldn't believe the difference in the ball players, because they were so much better in the Negro League than the players out there supposed to be so much better than the blacks in the other league. So once I made that comparison, I was devoted to stick with the Negro League ball players, because they would come in, the different teams would come in, different types of players. The Indianapolis Clowns, they had guys out there that was doing things that you could not believe. And it inspired me to keep playing. I was 12 years old with playing, and we didn't even have a little league for blacks in Memphis during that time. It was only for the whites.
You know, you really do illuminate the period. You know, I think it's so important for folks to understand Jackie Robinson's legacy is to understand what the environment was when he made this journey into Major League Baseball. To understand just the absolute hatred and racism, and ultimately what we can only call candidly as just abject, quintessential hypocrisy that so many members from the black community had gone across the waters and fought for democracy. And democracy was not being practiced here at home. Quite the opposite was being practiced, and the resistance to Jackie Robinson coming into the national pastime was tremendous. Now, as I said, Chris Meade is here in studio. Chris Meade is the author of Joe Louis, Black Champion in White America. And Chris, if I understand it correctly, you really have a lot to say about Joe Louis really laying the groundwork for what ultimately was Jackie Robinson's entree into Major League Baseball and the other professional leagues being integrated also. Talk to me about that, please.
Well, it's the myths we have about American history, and particularly about race relations, are always present. You see the myths of white Southerners today who have star and bar flags on their pickup trucks.
Right.
To them, the Confederate flag is an emblem of their culture, family, relaxed values in the South. It is instead an emblem of the reimposition of segregation after the Civil War by violence.
Yeah.
Our society clamped down on black opportunity in the late 1800s as Reconstruction ended. And this happened with sports. Most people don't know it. The first African-American Major League Baseball player was not Jackie Robinson. There were major leagues, and a guy named George Stovey was a pitcher for the Newark Bears. A member of the Hall of Fame, Cap Anson, led a boycott of Mr. Stovey, and he was drummed out of baseball because the white players insisted that he go.
Chris, let me say something, and then I want you absolutely to continue. I want my listening audience, my viewing audience, you may be able to tell or maybe not, but I want my listening audience to understand and appreciate that Chris Meade is my white brother. He is not a radical black man that is spewing forth these words. Chris Meade is a learned, highly researched white man. So I just want to make that distinction. Go on, Chris. You my brother.
Well, I appreciate it. I don't think I deserve the credit. But in any event, for example, in the Kentucky Derby, most of the winning jockeys in the late 1800s were black.
Yes.
And of course, the whites came in and essentially drummed them out again. Jack Johnson became the first black heavyweight champion of the world. And unfortunately for race relations in the United States, Johnson was an angry, and don't get me wrong, an appropriately angry black man.
Sure.
But he also was a jerk. And that's a story that doesn't get told a lot.
Right.
And he essentially flaunted his disapproval of white convention by openly having white prostitutes on his arm everywhere he went in Chicago.
Right.
And what people don't understand is that prompted more anti-miscegenation laws, more laws banning the marriage of whites and blacks than at any time in American history, and that was in the early 1900s.
Okay. Now, you made a comment. You said Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion. He was great in the ring, but he was jerked out of the ring. Now, before anybody kind of goes crazy out there about that, most recently, I was quoted in USA Today. Raquel Newman was quoted in USA Today as urging President Obama to pardon him, because I think it would be the right thing. I think he was, in spite of the jerk that he was unjustly convicted of something ridiculous, taking his girlfriend, who later became his wife, across state lines for immoral reasons. That was, bovine scatology at its best in my estimation. Now, with that being said, let me say this about your comment about him being a jerk. One of my boxing godfathers was Jersey Joe Walcott. And Jersey Joe Walcott told me of the time that he walked from Camden, New Jersey to Voorhees, New Jersey, in pouring down rain in mud nearly up to his knees. And his purpose for doing that was that there was a train stop in Voorhees, New Jersey, and Jack Johnson was on the train. And he and one of his buddies went down at 12 years old, like Fred was in Memphis, Tennessee, went down at 12 years old to get an autograph from Jack Johnson. And he stood out there in the pouring rain for hours. The train finally came. Jack Johnson emerged from the train and cursed out the little kids that were standing there for an autograph. Jersey Joe Walcott, who later became elected in New Jersey as a sheriff by the largest margin in political history, and who remained a popular figure to his death, vowed that day that one day he would become the heavyweight champion of the world, and that whenever an autograph was asked for, he would sign it. He didn't give a damn what else was going on in the world. If a kid handed him a piece of paper, he would sign it. I spent many years with Joe Louis, in the twilight of his life. And I can tell you that he, with Jersey Joe Walcott, in the twilight years of his life, and I can tell you that he signed every autograph that anyone ever asked for. It is so interesting how those moments can be so pivotal in people's lives. We're going to take a break. We've got Fred Valentine on the line from Philadelphia, former Major League Baseball player with the Washington Senators. Got Chris Meade here, who authored the book, Joe Louis, Black Champion in White America. We'll be back at We Act Radio in just a few moments.
What do you care about? We'll find out when the discussion continues after this on The Rock Newman Show. You're listening to We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM. Visit us online at weactradio.com.
My baby drives a bull handcuff.
The weekend is here, and no matter what the weather's like outside, you'll find the deals inside here in the beautiful showroom of the all-new Pohanka Hyundai in Capitol Heights during their giant Markdown Madness sale.
Smart shoppers know that every new Hyundai in Pohanka comes with Hyundai Assurance and America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. But why don't you tell them about the Markdown sale, Joe?
I'll be happy to, Kim. Folks, shop around on the web, and you'll see lease payments on a new 2013 Elantra GLS at $179 a month. Today at Pohanka Hyundai, $99 a month. That's right, a $99 payment on a brand new Elantra.
And $89 a month on a new 2013 Accent GLS Automatic. How do they do it, Joe?
It must be the volume, Kim. A brand new building, hundreds of new Hyundais, and Pohanka's low payment and easy credit programs are designed to get everybody driving. But you have to get here today. Rush to the giant Markdown Madness sale at exit 13 off the Capitol Beltway.
Pohanka Hyundai, king of the Beltway. All financing for a limited term on approved HMF credit.
My baby drives a bull handcuff.
Good God! I got to ask you, what we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry Soul Food. What we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food.
Giving you the real on everything from politics, sports, and common everyday life issues. This is The Rock Newman Show.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at We Act Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, The Arc. The Arc is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The Arc is also home to the Arc Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you could want is at the Arc, so stop by and see them. The Arc, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast. For more information, visit the Arc's website, www.thearcdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The Arc, part of Southeast D.C.
Packers,
Vikings,
Red State,
Blue State.
We come from different places.
Uptown,
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
half empty,
Half full.
But no matter how different we are, we're all connected, and we can all make a difference. That's why United Way brings people, expertise, and resources together to improve the education, income, and health of our communities, the building blocks for a better life. When we live united, our efforts, magnified by others, add up to real change. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly, so do our communities. But real change won't happen without you.
Live united.
So let's look beyond our differences.
Live united.
One by one, let's make a difference. Let's reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all.
Live united.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Real talk, real issues, real life.
I got a new sheriff in town.
We now return to the Rock Newman Show.
Welcome back, folks. In this hour, we're talking about 42, the movie, and the legacy of Jackie Robinson, the impact that he had on America and the world. In Philadelphia, we have on our newsmaker line, Fred Valentine. Just joining us here in a studio is Ron Harris, sports encyclopedia extraordinaire, and Mark Lassiter. Mark Lassiter is a native New Yorker. And I want to talk to Ron and Mark both in a moment about their observations and recollections. And Mark, you being from New York, just how it felt having Jackie Robinson as a part of your environment and community there. Fred, I know you're there on the line. Chris Meade was just making some points about Joe Louis sort of paving the way. And before I let you go, Fred, I certainly would like for you to share with us, what you remember about Jackie Robinson in terms of his impact on the game, his impact on society, and if you would talk about him as a player, because he was obviously, a bit your senior, but you're the one amongst us that is most qualified to really talk about his playing days and the impact he had on the game and on America.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I don't think we have enough time to go through the whole scenario, but I'll briefly give you the impact that Jackie Robinson had on my life in reference to baseball. Coming up in Memphis, Tennessee, and as a 12-year-old there, my father was in World War II, and he came out knowing all about the discrimination and everything. He knew I was interested in baseball. When I went to high school, I told him I wanted to play in the band because I was so small, 160 pounds. He said he couldn't afford to buy me an instrument, so he gave me $5 and told me to go down to town and buy myself a glove. And sure enough, I went for a used glove, patched it up, and I got interested in baseball. But the impact that Jackie had on me was by only seeing the Negro League and the players there and seeing them do, things that we took for granted because they did it so often, and going out and see see some of the white leagues play, I just continued to go forth and play and do what I could in reference to enhancing my abilities, not realizing I would ever get into the major leagues. So the first time Jackie Robinson played in St. Louis, my father knew about it. And he said he wanted me to go and see Jackie Robinson because of the fact he had such a big impact on the game. So my father, we packed up, we drove from Memphis to St. Louis for the weekend to see Jackie Robinson play. And I could not believe the impact that he had on the baseball game as a whole. And from that time on, knowing how some of the people were, and this was in St. Louis, Missouri, knowing how some of the people themselves were basically against him being there, and how he put up with it, that gave me more inspiration in reference to how to deal with the issues that I eventually had to go through after signing up to become a professional baseball player.
Hey, Fred, before you move ahead, if you don't mind, take us to St. Louis, that first game that you went to. St. Louis is not thought in any stretch of the imagination then or ever, you know, the paradigm of liberalism, of liberal ways of living. So I can only imagine what must have been the hostility at that time. Can you just take us back to your walking in that stadium and how the crowd reacted, those who were black and proud of Jackie Robinson and those who were not so, weren't black at all and certainly weren't proud?
Well, that's true, because being young and black and from I would say a modest community and area, walking into that stadium, which was, to me, it was paradise. I'd never seen anything like it. The first time I'd ever been into a Major League Baseball city at that age, and other than the Negro League. And to see the crowds there and to see blacks there where it's just like my father took me. They went just to see Jackie Robinson. And the fact that so many of the people in the stands regretted him being there, and the fact that he came out and put on a show that it's unforgivable, and you just can't forget it. To go through all of the things that he went through, I could not believe a person could play at the rate and at the attitude and at the stage that he played, taking all of that. And it just made me wonder, what's in this person to make him be able to accept all of this and perform at such a high level? But that gave me the inspiration to continue to go forth, because the people didn't make him pretty much go against his abilities. And I used that same scenario when I played, particularly started off in the South. You go on the field and boo you and call you all kind of racial names, and they go home and practice on it, I'm sure, because the things they would say the next day before I got out there.
To be a real good racist, they had to practice. To be that good, they had to put in some practice.
You just couldn't think of those things. They practice on it and come to the ballpark and just wait for the time. I get on first base. I tell you the truth. This is not theory. Getting through that whole thing. I get on first base, and they start off. You know, hey, there's a rabbit on second base. There's a coon out there. All these things. I said, what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna steal second base. Then I'm gonna steal third base, and hopefully I get home and get it back into the dugout so I'll be off the field. That was my motivation. But and I didn't. And we lost some black ball players during my time in the minor leagues because they could not endure those racial slurs and things that they were saying to us. And but somehow or another, based on the fact that I had seen Jackie and saw what he went through and realized what he was going through, if I was going to make it, then I knew what I had to put up with.
Hey, Fred, let me ask you again before we let you go here. I think I heard Howard Cosell make the argument at one point that Jackie Robinson was the greatest athlete that he had ever seen. Now, he ran track at UCLA. He played baseball at UCLA. He played basketball at UCLA, and he played football at UCLA, and he played them all well. How do you talk about his just pure athletic prowess?
Well, I wasn't able to evaluate his other sports in football, just like Jim Brown. You know, he was a terrific athlete in other sports also.
Yes.
And but Jackie, all around, he was a tremendous athlete. And people looking at him never would think that he had the speed that he had. You know, the bases that he would steal, how he would go about stealing them. That was another tactic that I picked up, how he would get his jumps. He wasn't the fastest person in the world, but he had the instinct of really knowing when to leave and when to run and how to make certain plays. Same thing at working with second base, how to move and when to move and how to make certain plays. But I thought he was a tremendous athlete. I don't have any knowledge about how well he did other than what I read in other sports.
Right.
But I would say he fits right in the tops with all of the greatest athletes that ever participated in sports.
Well, Fred, you know, I know that you're traveling, and I really, really want to thank you. It has been our pleasure for you to give this some perspective, this particular movie and the legacy of Jackie Robinson. Sometime when you're back in the area, I certainly would like to have you in studio and talk about you and your career and all the things that you've done. It's been an honor to talk to you, and travel safely and get back safely, and I look to having you in the studio soon.
Well, Rick, I really appreciate being here, but I'm so glad to know that you're pushing this movie, because it's educational, not only for the young people, but for some of the seniors out there that really don't know the impact behind what Jackie has done for sports and also for the world as it relates to human beings and how they're treated and what they have to go through.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, and have a blessed day.
Okay, and as he said, the movie. Yes, folks, I want to say to you, go see the movie. Let me get quickly back, Ron and Mark. I'll get to you in just a second, but Chris, let me get back to you, talking about Joe Louis paving the way for Jackie Robinson and others. Now, Fred Valentine, just from almost a personal point of view, black man growing up at the South in Memphis, pointed out and sort of set the tone and the attitude of the nation. You have written a book, folks. Not only am I going to urge you and encourage you to go see the movie, I'm going to tell you something. Try to get this book. Try to get this book that was written by Chris Meade, Joe Louis, Black Champion in White America. It will tell you a whole lot that you don't know. It is a very interesting read. Pick it up and you will not be able to put it down. It is very, very well written. It is very informative, and it will help you understand the climate and the times and what some of these athletes, and it'll talk a lot about race relations in America. Chris, during the break, you talked about, for us to understand now, racism from 1935 or so to 1950 or so, all one needs to do would be to go back and get and see some headlines and read some of the stories in the New York Times. Talk about that, please.
So I started doing research as a white suburban college kid, and wanted to look at the 1936 Olympics and see how white America.
Owens, see Owens.
And Hitler, right? So
yes.
I cracked open the New York Times on an archive reel, and I start reading the sports page from the summer of 1936 when the Olympics were, which happened to be when Louis fought Schmeling for the first time, a German fighter, and lost. And all I can tell you is that if you open the New York Times sports page from the summer of 1936 and read about the way Northern educated writers, top-of-the-line journalists, wrote about African-American athletes, you will never underestimate racism in the United States again. They referred to their color in virtually every sentence. They quoted Ralph Metcalfe, a sprinter from Chicago who was later elected to Congress, in Uncle Remus dialect. That's not how he spoke. Grantland Rice, everybody's heard of Grantland Rice, a great sports writer, described America's black athletes as our Ethiopian phalanx. and said that perhaps Negroes are best suited to sprints because they're only capable of exerting hard work for a very brief period of time.
We've talked about, you have an interesting story about a New York headline when the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis, fought Primo Carnera. Yes. And a headline that came out in the New York Times after Louis was victorious in the fight against the big 6'6" giant of a man, Carnera.
This was Lewis's first big fight in New York City against a heavyweight champion. It was in the summer of 1935. And you have to understand, no black man had been given a chance to fight any significant heavyweight fight since Jack Johnson's legacy. And people use Johnson as an excuse. If you let blacks compete against whites, you're going to get race riots. You're going to get blacks trying to go out with white women. That's dangerous.
God forbid.
Right. And so there was this justification from the South. Interracial competition is dangerous. Black athletes, the rare ones on Northern college teams, weren't allowed to play when their teams traveled south. There was this overwhelming clamping down, no sense of opportunity at all. And bizarrely, this led to a belief that blacks weren't great athletes. And all I have to tell you is the story of Tarzan as an example of the way white people thought. Okay? Tarzan, the story there is, this is the son of a British noble couple who are shipwrecked off the coast of Africa, and their white baby, the descendant of the superior race, the English race that has won out, gets shipwrecked and raised by apes. And what does he become, this white baby unburdened by civilization? He becomes the best athlete in the jungle.
Ah!
And now, of course, things have switched. Everybody would say, white baby in the black jungle, that's the worst athlete in the jungle. We'd make fun of that. So in any event, when Louis came to the forefront and was actually in the newspapers, he's the first black man really making news.
Primo Carnera.
Yes, yeah. Primo Carnera. And so a white writer wrote the following lead.
Folks, listen up to this.
Something sly and sinister and not quite human emerged out of the African jungle last night to demolish the Hulk, Primo Carnera. That's a New York newspaper.
New York Times.
Not the Times, but you could go to the Times and they would describe Louis first as fierce. The first image of him was he's out of the jungle, he's a savage, and he's a killer. Not true. Louis was a nice guy. Then
loved golf.
Yeah. Then they switched stereotypes. Then they turned him into an Uncle Remus Starkey, watermelon. Look at how much chicken he eats. Look at how much he sleeps. Again, not true. Louis was the hardest worker of his time. Ran 6 miles every day, right. Sparred all the time, fought all the time, and was great. Okay, but what happened was that white sports writers got to know him because he stayed in the news year after year. Unlike Owens, who won a couple medals and disappeared, Louis was there. Yeah. Time after time. And then we got the lucky accident. Joe Louis's most significant opponent before World War II was a German fighter named Max Schmeling. A white guy, obviously. And Schmeling beat Louis the first time they fought, and Americans perceived Adolf Hitler as embracing Schmeling's victory as proof of racial superiority. They fought a rematch in 1938, and Schmeling describes coming to America in his memoirs and saying when he got off the boat, he was greeted by picketers against Nazism, but he perceived that white Americans were now rooting against him and rooting for Louis. And in one of the greatest lucky accidents of American history, we fought a war against the Germans in World War II where our enemy looked just like white America. Try to distinguish yourself. It's easy to distinguish yourself from the Japanese. Our anti-war propaganda against them described them as Asiatics, cunning eye, slanty eyes, et cetera. They're not human, right? How do you describe a German who looks like you, as different from you?
Yeah. Folks, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to skip this. We're going to skip this next break and just make it up at the top of the hour. We'll end a little quick. I do need to mention, however, again, our two of our advertisers, two of our sponsors. I want to say to you, if you have any automotive needs whatsoever, whether you want to get a new car, you want to buy, you want to lease, you want to trade in, you want to finance, it doesn't matter. Pohanka and the Pohanka Automo Group is the place for you to have satisfied in a fantastic way all of your automotive needs, whether it runs the gamut from Acura to Honda to Lexus to Hyundai to Mercedes-Benz to Chevrolet. If you need your car serviced, they have 11 collision centers. And the Pohanka family they have been an institution in this D.C. metropolitan area for quite some time with just first-rate integrity. You want a deal on an automobile, go to a Pohanka dealership. Tell them Rock Newman sent you, and you will get the Rock Newman special. You'll get the best deal you can get anywhere buying a car in the world. And as I mentioned earlier, one of our proud sponsors, I'm happy to have them on board and just can't wait for their project to unfold, is the MGM Grand National Harbor and MGM properties around the world. That project will be unfolding as time emerges on the banks of the Potomac River. And I urge and encourage you to certainly support that property when you hear about it. It is going to be of such great benefit to the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area with jobs, with money, and with fun, activity, your entertainment pleasures, your gaming pleasures. And, as I talk about the money, the funding that will come out of that from the 4,000 plus jobs that are going to be created and the tax base that is going to benefit our firefighters, our educational system, our police department. It's a good thing. It's a win-win situation for all involved. Support the MGM Grand National Harbor. Okay, going to stay right here and go to Mark Lassiter. Mark, you are a proud native New Yorker. You tell us about it all the time. When you were on these airways before, you talked about the magnificence of Walt Clyde Frazier. I'd just like to hear from you as a sports nut, how it felt to be able to boast about Jackie Robinson playing in your neck of the woods.
Well, I'd just like to segue from the comments about the coverage of Joe Louis, because growing up in New York, you had an interesting perspective. And I wasn't fortunate enough to see Jackie play, but I was fortunate enough to understand the market that he played in from a business perspective. People don't realize that New York being the capital of the world, the media world, there were 3 baseball stadiums in New York. The Polo Grounds in northern Manhattan, Yankee Stadium in the South Bronx, and Ebbets Field in Brooklyn. Those stadiums were only about 7 miles apart. So you think of 3 major league stadiums in the same neighborhood, all competing for the same dollar.
Yeah.
Branch Rickey, who is portrayed as the noble executive, he was a businessman. So Branch Rickey was looking for the edge. What was going to get him to the next level to compete with the Giants, who were in the same league, the National League, and ultimately with the hated Yankees, who were the American League powerhouse. So Jackie Robinson became a source of new talent that would allow the Dodgers to get more of a marketing toehold in New York, as well as help the team get better.
In the movie, he talks about, he says green. He said,
it's all about green.
He they didn't whitewash that. The movie didn't necessarily try to make him a civil rights pioneer. They I thought depicted it properly in saying that, he understood that when black folks came to the game, that they spent green, and that was his motivation as the businessman.
Now, the only other observation I like to make, Rock, as a New Yorker, is that I did get to see Jackie as an endorsement or a pitch man for Chock full of Nuts in New York. And this started in the late 60s, well after his retirement. And Jackie was the front man for this chain of coffee shops in New York. One of the things I'll never forget is that Jackie, before he died prematurely, he had a snow white afro. So you talk about the passion that he had, the anger that he had to hold inside due to Mr. Rickey's directive, that you could not fight back, you couldn't look back. You think of what he had to hold inside for those years. And I always remember that snow white afro as being kind of an indicator of all that stress that Jackie had to play with.
You know what? There are definitely some. We look at Jackie Robinson through a filter because you see a certain defiance with that, and I think it was there. The movie again depicts that he was not some docile darky who didn't want to fight back. He really wanted to crack some skulls out there, but he embraced and understood, the impact that he needed to have by absorbing it and not giving it back at its level. That he needed to operate from a higher place. So again, it's a fascinating movie that I encourage everybody to go see. Ron, those of you who don't know Ron Harris is a sports encyclopedia. Ron, I'd ask you, your observation of Rob. Well, wait a minute. Before I go there, Mark, I was saying we looked through a different prism. And I remember as a 16-year-old, 1968, hearing Robinson have some things to say about Ali that weren't particularly flattering. So I was the ultimate Ali fan, and if anybody said anything about Ali, it was like playing the dozens with me. It's like, no, you don't talk about my man. So I had some, in my radical view, I had some issues with his support of, I think, Richard Nixon at one point, and what he had to say about Ali. But Ron, I want to ask you, Jackie Robinson, the athlete. Talk to us about that.
Well, I was born in New York, but we used to visit New York, and my grandmother was a big Dodger fan, which made me a Dodger fan. And of course, she was a Jackie fan, and she talked about Jackie Robinson. I never saw him play except the film clips. But the interesting thing from what you read and you hear is that he wasn't the best player in the Negro League, but he was probably chosen because of his demeanor, his intellect, his temperament, and that he was able to hold within the kind of things that he really probably wanted to erupt on. And I think Branch Rickey realized that, because if you talk to the Negro League players, and I've talked to Buck Leonard and a few of them that I've met over the years, and they could name several players that were better than him that should have come up to the major leagues. Now, could they have gone through the stuff that he went through? I don't know. But I think that's why he was chosen, because he was a college guy, he had been in the service, played all those sports, well-spoken, the whole bit. And but I just like the way that he brought excitement to the game, a lot like Bryce Harper does for this ball club here in Washington. When you can't go to the bathroom if Bryce is coming up. And you couldn't do that if Jackie was on the bases.
Right.
They said he would get in a rundown. He'd stay in a rundown for like 5 minutes because they couldn't tag him out.
Yeah, his nimbleness, his athleticism. Yeah.
And he would get back at you with the spikes high on a steal or some kind of way that he could get back at you within the game.
Yeah. Chris, can you now, take some time and further talk about how Joe Louis greased the skids, if you will, and perhaps Joe Louis deserved some of the credit that Jackie Robinson ultimately got.
Right. So part of it was that Louis just stayed in the news, and he became friends with white sports writers who slowly woke up and realized this is a nice guy and he works pretty hard, and the stereotypes don't necessarily apply. He's an individual human being.
And folks, those of you who don't know anything about boxing at all, Chris says stays in the news. You need to understand, Joe Louis had 25 successful title defenses. Never, ever will be equaled.
Right. And then he fought these symbolic fights against Max Schmeling, and when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, Joe Louis volunteered for the Army within a week and then fought 2 heavyweight championship fights where he donated his entire purse to wartime charities for veterans. And so this was America's token black, reassuring white America that a people scorned by their country would still stand by it. A remarkably brave and symbolic thing for him to do. And at the time, he was hurting for money, and that led to his ultimate tax problem. So it was an enormous personal sacrifice on Louis's part. And Louis toured Army bases throughout the war as his service and became a symbol of, again, America and our tolerance. And we defined ourselves as different from our German enemies because we, America, weren't racist. We're democratic. Now, you got to laugh about that.
Right.
But the answer was that irony finally came home to roost for a lot of white Americans, because here's an actual person in front of them they admire, and why are we treating him differently? And when World War II ended, instead of referring to the race of black athletes in every sentence, white Americans started calling Joe Louis a credit to his race, the human race. And all of America's major sports desegregated in the 5 years after World War II. Football with the Cleveland Browns, baseball with Robinson, and remember the NBA also desegregated in 49, and the Army desegregated in 49. And all of that, I would argue, is because of the lucky accident of fighting the Germans and the need for anti-war propaganda, and the fact that black athletes now became popular and brought the unfair treatment of African Americans home. My dad grew up in St. Louis, in a white suburb. And so I was fascinated to hear Fred Valentine talk about his experience going to Sportsman's Park, where the Browns and the Cardinals played. They were the southernmost post in baseball. My dad remembers Sportsman's Park was segregated. All black fans had to go sit in a fenced-off pavilion in right field. He remembers going to a Cardinals game against the Dodgers with Robinson there and being surprised that the black fans were rooting for the Dodgers. Now, that shows you, my dad's a person of good faith, okay?
Right.
I mean, he's a nice human being.
Right.
But he never thought about racism. It wasn't on the agenda. It just wasn't part of white people's thinking, this horrible injustice. And African Americans have this real tough part dealing with what you describe as Robinson's need to keep it bottled up and not fight back. And what I would argue to you is, again, African Americans miss the significance of Lewis and Robinson and don't give them enough credit, because those guys understood there is a need for the first ones to actually win over white people. You got to win them over. You got to appeal to their sense of culture. You got to show them you're like them. So Joe Louis's image and Jackie Robinson's image were, we are middle class, happily married to black women. We are reading the Bible. We are going to college. We want education. We are just like you. That barrier had to be broken for Muhammad Ali to go the next step, for Malcolm X to go the next step, for Martin Luther King to go the next step. Now you see we're like you. Now it's time to wake up, folks, and start treating us like real Americans instead of this stepchild to be beaten and pushed down, which had been happening for hundreds of years.
And I would say a great misfortune in this society is that after time and time and time again on a minority community, particularly the African American community, proves its talent in any number of ways, that now we have a black president. And that black president, I have no doubt about it, some of the restraint, some of the superhuman restraint that he has had to demonstrate in the face of this man is standing and delivering a State of the Union message, and a redneck cracker from North Carolina stands up, a congressman, and calls this man a liar. That demonstration of disrespect is something that makes one wonder, okay, if Joe Louis played his role and demonstrated and showed, we're like you, and Jackie Robinson did that, and so many others, whether it's Alexis Herman or just our great history of, leaders of Martin Luther King and otherwise, what is it going to take? There is a euphoria and something to celebrate about Barack Obama becoming the president, because he would not have become the president without the support of many, many white folks. But him becoming president has also caused racist and racism to rear its head in a more obvious way than I can remember before he became president.
Well, I mean, here, of course, is the great difficulty with racial dialogue in the United States. As a white person, I am not saying it's right that Joe Louis and Jackie Robinson had to make this appeal, had to essentially not fight back. All I'm saying is it had a positive impact on white perceptions.
Not necessarily was it right, but it was necessary.
It was necessary
to make the impact going forward.
Right. And similarly, I think our society is going to have to work through what again, I'm a Democratic voter. I share your distaste for what I perceive as an element, and I would describe it as a small element of the opposition to our president, as he's not really one of us. He wasn't really born here. He had a Muslim name. You know, all these things that are an element of the dialogue that are essentially saying he's not one of us. My children don't feel that. You know, I got to tell you, for thank goodness, the younger generation. I mean, we're working towards everybody not really caring. And I keep praying we will all intermarry. We will all eventually be the same color. And we all know none of this matters.
At some point. At some point. We can only pray, folks. I'm very thankful that you joined us today. To my guests, Ron Harris, Mark Lassiter, Fred Valentine, Chris Meade. It's been a great Saturday, April the 13th, and this concludes another segment of the Rock Newman Show on We Act Radio.
Good afternoon and welcome to Take Action News. This is Daniel Marin's executive producer of Take Action News. In this week, once again, for David Schuster, the host, who is out on assignment. But David, not to worry, will be back again next week on, of course, the show that bears his name, Take Action News with David Schuster. I want to give a big shout out this Saturday, April 6th, to all of our listeners and viewers out here in the Washington, D.C. area, tuning into us right now on 1480 AM, and of course, weactradio.com over the internet and across the nation. We have an incredible show coming up because this week was packed. But first, there was some interesting news out of our neighboring state right here in Washington, D.C., the state of Virginia. That is that Virginia's Attorney General was currently in a contentious race for the governorship of Virginia. That will take place in November 2013. Ken Cuccinelli. He is a Republican, and he will be facing Terry McAuliffe, the Democrat, in the upcoming Virginia gubernatorial race in the fall of 2013. There was something interesting that happened here. Now, Ken Cuccinelli is something of a Tea Party all-star. He is seen as a man committed to the principles of small government. He led one of the lawsuits against President Obama's health care law, the Affordable Care Act. And if I'm not mistaken, he has also voiced some libertarian views on things like lessening penalties for marijuana possession. Of course, that's very appealing amongst the younger libertarian set. But it turns out he has a social conservative streak, too. And here's how we found that out. A federal court struck down a conviction of a 47-year-old man who, in Virginia, solicited oral sex from a 17-year-old woman. Now, under normal state laws, under most states' laws, that would basically be just a basic statutory rape case. In other words, when a man has, when someone has any kind of sex, including oral sex with a minor under the age of 18, it is not considered consensual, and therefore it's considered statutory rape, even if it was literally consensual, because a person does not have the authority to give consent to have sex with an adult until they are 18. So it would have been a routine conviction, but Ken Cuccinelli didn't. There was a problem, and that is that Ken Cuccinelli tried the case, pressed charges based on Virginia's laws of nature law, which literally just bans consensual oral and anal sex, including homosexual sex. Now, the reason it was struck down is because state laws that ban consensual oral and anal sex were struck down by the Supreme Court back in 2003 in Lawrence versus Texas, when the Supreme Court ruled that Texas's law banning sodomy, banning the act of anal sex, of homosexual sex, in specifically, obviously anal sex can be heterosexual as well, was unconstitutional. And therefore state laws that ban those things were unconstitutional as well. At the time, Virginia state legislators in the Virginia State Senate tried to modify their law of nature, law of human nature, because apparently oral sex is against human nature, to exclude things like consensual, anal, gay or otherwise, and oral sex. This was in 2004. Ken Cuccinelli, then a state senator, led the charge to kill those efforts, and so the stricter older law stayed on the books. Because as he said, I'll quote his words here, at the time, he explained it in 2009, his efforts to oppose this bill, and which he helped kill on the Senate floor, told the newspaper in 2009, my view is that homosexual acts, not homosexuality, but homosexual acts are wrong, they're intrinsically wrong, and I think in a natural law-based country, it's appropriate to have policies that reflect that. They don't comport with natural law. Well, now it's blowing up in his face again because star Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli couldn't convict a routine statutory rape charge. And regardless of whether the appeal of the federal court's ruling succeeds and the charge can stand, then regardless of whether that occurs, Ken Cuccinelli looks like an idiot, as he should, because what you do in the privacy of your home is yours. We've got a great show coming up with you for all of you next, so stay tuned as we wait for our syndicated stations to join us. You're listening and watching to Take Action News on We Act Radio. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/TakeActionNewsTV for free clips in your inbox.
American citizens everywhere are demanding and supporting speedy and complete action.
Broadcasting from the We Act Radio studios in Washington, D.C., heard live across the nation, this is Take Action News with David Schuster.
Many of the world's great movements of thought and action have flowed from the work of a single man.
There is work to be done. The state of our economy calls for action, bold and swift, and we will act.
We will take action when action is required.
Take Action News is glad to have you for the program. April the 13th, great to be back in the chair. Special thanks to the man for the last couple weeks. What an interesting couple weeks it's been. We'll get the titles and more about all that. But we got some big news coming up today.
Looks like we're having some technical difficulties there with David Schuster. Unfortunately, we'll get those resolved. But we have an amazing show ahead of us today on Take Action with David Schuster. This is executive producer Daniel Marins sitting in temporarily while we get our technical difficulties with David Schuster resolved. And of course, today is Saturday, April 13th. We have an incredible show ahead. Up at 12:30, we're going to be having a serious discussion, and yes, in fact, a debate about Wall Street reform. Are America's big banks too big to fail, and what should the government do about it? We're having, of course, Eliot Spitzer, the former governor of New York, former attorney general, and host of The Viewpoint on current television, debating Robert S. Kaplan, he's a Harvard Business School professor and a former vice chair of Goldman Sachs, one of those large big banks. And, of course, that's going to be from 12:30 to 1 p.m., so stick around for that. And then, of course, at 1:30, we have the extraordinary opportunity and privilege to be speaking with Mumia Abu-Jamal, America's most well-known death row prisoner. He was a convicted cop killer, but some say he's the victim of an unjust, racist criminal justice system. He continues to proclaim his innocence, and of course, he has sparked a global movement in solidarity with him. Fascinating discussion. You're going to want to stick around for that. But first, this week was all about the budget and, of course, the liberal outrage at that budget. And it was also about gun laws. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the reactions to the President Obama's finally unleashing the budget. Let me see here. We're actually going to talk about gun control at first, because there were some momentous things that happened on the gun control front today, and that is that there was a motion for cloture on the floor of the Senate on a bill that would close the gun show loophole and require universal background checks across the board, including for the 40% of gun sales where they are currently not available, where they're currently not required. And Harry Reid spoke very, very emotionally when they finally broke the 60-vote threshold. Now, there were a number of Republican senators that were threatening to put a hold on this, that were threatening to filibuster this. But of course, Senator John McCain spoke up against them. Here, first, let's listen to Harry Reid speaking very passionately about the issue of universal background checks on the Senate floor this past week.
Sometimes people, in a fit of passion, will purchase a handgun to do bad things with it. Mr. President, even as my dad did, kill themselves. Waiting a few days helps. Requiring a simple background check every time a gun is sold is common sense.
You could hear the emotion in Harry Reid's voice, and that's not something you say often. Harry Reid, not your typical emotional, blustery politician, and yet he paused. His voice broke when recalling the image of his father's suicide. And of course, in America, we do have more suicides and deaths by gun and accident as a result of perhaps having guns that are too available. In fact, in Australia, when they curbed their gun laws to make them more restrictive, suicides declined by 60%. Again, 60%. Suicide, one of the big issues of gun violence in this country, and it's something that we don't talk about often enough. And there's Harry Reid, a man with a B rating from the NRA, not considered a gun hawk, but rather considered someone who, in fact, in the past has been a huge champion of gun rights, perhaps no better spokesman in that regard, essentially saying, look, there's a wait time factor here. It's not just about keeping it out of the hands of criminals and mentally ill. Of course, we're talking about the gun bill that moved to the floor for debate in the Senate this week, and it came really, speeches like those of Harry Reid didn't stop Republican senators from openly announcing gleefully that they were about to put this bill on hold, from even going up for debate. Here's Senator Jim Risch, Republican from Idaho.
Are you and your fellow senators threatening this filibuster?
We're not threatening to filibuster. We're going to filibuster.
Senator James Risch of Idaho told us he and the 13 other Republicans will filibuster any expansion of gun control laws because they believe that laws now on the books already violate the constitutional right to bear arms.
Where are you on expanding background checks?
I've got real reservations. I don't think that the background checks are nearly as effective as what people are arguing. So what you're doing is you're really penalizing good law-abiding citizens that want to own a firearm when you're not penalizing the people that should be penalized.
Senator.
Okay, you're penalizing not good law-abiding citizens who want to buy firearms because the folks that are mentally ill that will get them regardless of the background checks appears to be the logic there. Of course, in a rare moment of intrapartisan dissension, John McCain, the senior senator from Arizona, essentially criticized his Republican colleagues publicly on the Sunday talk shows for threatening to hold up this bill.
Senator McCain, what's your thought on a filibuster on this? Would you be against that?
I don't understand it. The purpose of the United States Senate is to debate and to vote and to let the people know where we stand.
So you'd encourage Republicans not to filibuster?
I would not only encourage it, I don't understand it. What are we afraid of?
Senator John McCain essentially opposing filibustering the gun reform laws. And in fact, it was his voice that led 16 Republican senators to vote to move for cloture, including Senator John McCain. He's been someone who's stood up for gun control laws in the past, and certainly someone who does not like, who has a sense of honor traditionally, someone who at least claims to respect the lawmaking process and the process of dignity involved in the Senate. And in fact, it's not clear whether Senator McCain's pressure was what forced those Republicans to vote to move to cloture, or whether it was President Obama on the stump himself. Here was President Obama with Newtown families in Connecticut.
It's time. Let's put that to a vote.
Among the audience were parents of some.
Of course, folks, we've said it before that the gun debate has changed in this country since the Newtown massacre. And you ask yourself, how can someone like Jim Risch, the senator from Idaho, really stay with his position after hearing from those parents, after hearing speeches like the one that President Obama made? Of course, the president continuing to insist that we ban large capacity ammo magazines and assault style rifles, though of course at this point the Senate bill does not contain that, and it looks like that would have to be brought in as an amendment, which, given the political difficulties even universal background checks are facing, I think it's safe to say is almost a political non-starter. Now, in fact, the legislative compromise that allowed this bill to proceed to the floor for debate was one made by two very, very conservative senators, both respectively from the conservative wings of their party and from rural parts of the country, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania. They forged an amendment that would presumably cover fewer cases in terms of the universal background checks, but it would force record keeping. They spoke also very emotionally about the compromise that they forged, which brought enough Republican senators around to provide more than 60 votes needed to prevent a filibuster. Here's how Senator Manchin and Senator Toomey spoke about their compromise.
We have an agreement on an amendment to prevent criminals and the mentally ill and insane from getting firearms and harming people.
I don't consider criminal background checks to be gun control. I think it's just common sense. If you pass a criminal background check, you get to buy a gun. It's no problem. It's the people who fail a criminal or a mental health background check that we don't want having guns.
And of course, that is the exact logic behind closing the gun show loophole and making sure that all gun sales, private or from private sellers or from commercial sellers, are done with background checks, making that policy case very simply. And of course, that was the compromise that allowed this bill to move to the floor. We have a great show ahead, and of course, David Schuster will be joining us once we get these technical issues ironed out. But we're going to be talking a little bit more about the politics behind this gun legislation, where things go from here with David Schuster, with Charlie Mitchell, our congressional expert, when Take Action News continues after this.
If you're planning to replace your Social Security card simply because you don't have it, you may not need to replace it at all. What's most important is that you remember your Social Security number. Remember during school how you memorized information and answers for tests? In the same way, you should memorize your Social Security number. Knowing your number is important, but having the card may not.